Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. In our very first episode of American Hardwood Advisor, we're going to be talking about the Baird Brothers 60-plus year history, and we thought no better person to talk that subject about other than Mr. Paul Baird. Paul?
Yep. Hello. Yeah.
Paul, being one of the company's original founders, he and your two brothers, Richard and Howard, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to talk about a little bit about that, the history, how you guys started the company out of necessity, out of want, and we just want to get your perspective today of what you guys have gone through. And I've had the fortune of being involved with the company a long time. I've seen the growth, the changes. But we want to hear you talk about it a little bit today, Paul. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about, back in 1960, right? You and Richard and Howard.
Yeah, actually, it was even before 1960. We didn't start officially in business, but we started preparing ourselves. We were at home. We worked on local farms here, and we had a chance of power line went through north of us, strip mining over there. Timber was on. Father had a small sawmill, and that's how we actually learned about a sawmill as kids. Obviously, on a farm, you do a lot of things, and one of them was working on that mill. And so we decided instead of working for other people, we picked up a couple of accounts and started pulling the logs into this mill down here and doing it the old way, and whenever my friends and their friends also, I was in high school, they were in college, and we all graduated in 1960. So that's when we started officially, the business started officially. But we had learned, how to work in the woods, cut timber, obviously from our dad in that sawmill.
Yeah. And I wasn't around at that point, but I know at one point. Did Richard and Howard both go off to the service, or just Richard?
No. Howard went first. They went into the 6-month program, and he went first. And then when he came back, and at that time you could serve 6 months and be in the reserve for 5 years. And so then then Howard and I ran a sawmill. It's just a little mill that you would see that it's out in the woods today by guys that setting up mills. But then when Richard come back, or when Howard come back, then Richard went to the service, and then it was Howdy and I. And then when my time come around, I had gotten an ulcer, and I didn't need to go to the service.
Yeah.
Back that time. So, and that was a few years later.
So they did their service and they came back home, and then at some point, and I don't recall what year was it or thereabouts that you guys built the old Quonset building with the new Enterprise sawmill?
Well, that was built in. All I can remember that is the year that Jack Kennedy, our president, was shot. We were building it that fall, and so that would have been what. 63,
64,
somewhere.
Yeah. So that's when the old Quonset building was built.
That was the first building that Brother Robert had already built, north of us, but on the welding shop. But yes, and we were still operating out down behind the home place down there in a building that the sawmill was. That's where the logs and all. And then we built that in 1963. And that's about that year there. Richard and I both were married.
So that makes me think of a point as we've been developing different things as far as our new studio and so forth. And we started doing some research, and we did a little digging, and we were down at Pap's garage, and we were upstairs in the garage, and I've shown them, I've shared them with you. We found the original metal placards to that sawmill. What was it, Buckeye sawmill out of Columbiana? Or
That was, no, geez, not Buckeye, Enterprise.
Enterprise. Buckeye was the model, I believe.
Yeah, Buckeye was the number,
Yes.
the model on it.
Yes, and those were manufactured right down the road here in Columbiana, Ohio.
Exactly. And then actually later on, even our newer mill was manufactured there. Yeah. And we bought that mill off of our dad, paid him $400 for it, and went up and bought a baler, so traded a baler to him for something else. That's a lot of years passed since then. Yeah.
You know, and that goes back, whether it was necessity or want or whatever the case was, but there was a mentality that started to be built.
Yeah.
And having had the privilege of knowing Louis and Ada, I know where some of that came from.
Oh yeah.
I mean that, your mom and dad, they were hardworking people, and that was instilled into you guys, and you guys have carried it forward, and now, and it has to give you an enormous amount of pride in that we not only have seen second generation, your two sons, your siblings' children come in, take part of the business. Now we're starting to see the third generation.
Yep.
And talk a little bit about that transformation. I mean, we've experienced it together.
Yep.
We've seen what I still refer to as the kids, right? And it's nice to see they've all come in and they've taken responsibility of roles within the company. And in the day-to-day operations, just like you yourself are to this day. Yes. So talk a little bit about the kids. I know you've got some good stories about your boys tagging along with you out in the woods and in the shop and so forth. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's obviously you think you've all heard about the third generation, and I'm impressed by what I've seen so far. The interest that they are starting to show and taking grips with, and you've seen it also. And there's a lot, with as many grandchildren as I have, and as siblings that are around here, you can't expect them all to want to be but what I've seen so far, I've been well impressed with it.
It takes you back, and I can recall many nights, you and Howdy and Dick, at the end of the day, you coming back in from the woods crew, and those guys being here running the sawmill and running the mill shop. But at the end of the day, you guys all would stand around a pickup truck and just have conversation. Yeah. And we're seeing more and more of that. Yeah. As the kids, again, second generation, and now the third, they bring new ideas.
Right.
And just like we've experienced over the years, some ideas get pushed to the side, other ideas, we try and get legs underneath them and run with them. And to that conversation, how have you seen the hardwood lumber industry, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods included, but also the industry in general, how it has changed? I know right now, here we are in 2021, our country coming off of a pandemic, and there were different influences to our hardwood lumber industry. But in general, through the years, we used to build pallets, and then we started in moldings. Tell us that story a little bit.
Well, it's been a transition that obviously, like in any industry, modernization comes along, and we're doing things today that when you first started back, that you never even would have had any idea that would break into something like we're doing today. I mean, we've got computerized and programmable controllers, and we've got what we call a seeing eye over there in our trim shop or our rough mill, and that grades the board as it goes through, and at a pace that is really alarming when you watch how everything is cut up, and how you then reminisce back in the olden days when you would stand there by hand or examine the board, but then that changed there, and then the customer base has changed a lot for us over the years as we drifted into homes, and then that had to be addressed in another way. And you know as well as you started out on the road selling a lot of years ago, and you remember what we were before that. I mean, the first business that we opened up when we set up a small finish is we had $50 minimum, if you remember that, up on the wall. And then on the contractors only, because we're still basically a sawmill, still running that. And as we grew, and this transpired over the years away from that, it's been rather exciting to look back and look where we're at today.
You know, and in thinking back, there's numerous things that I recall, but there were a couple things that stick with me vividly. The day that the first winding molder was delivered, mm-hmm. and that was like a huge step for you guys back then. And I don't recall the year, but that was the first molder set in that finish shop, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been the second, no, but it was one of the first newer machines.
Yes. Yep.
And having the techs come over, get it set up, get it running, and that's when we really got serious about moldings.
Oh yeah.
And that, along with the philosophy that all three of you brothers had of never sitting still, never being good enough, looking for better. When was it, and there's a little story behind it, and I want you to tell it, that you decided to become self-sufficient as far as generating your own electricity? That's a great story. Share it with the folks.
Yeah, when obviously when you're in a small business, you jack of all trades. You would drive truck, go into steel mills, or deliver lumber if need be. If you had a driver off, you had to do that job, and you had to be able to handle that. So I went into the mills, and you see a lot of that in the mills, that he lost it over the years. You'd see that the generating as you grew, your need for electricity, the cost went higher. And then the heat in your buildings we didn't have. And as we built buildings, you saw that there was a need there for that also. Yeah. And then I kind of really, by accident, there was a small pump company down in Columbiana that went out of business, and they had the first generator that I bought. And I bought it because it was cheap, and it was fairly new, and I think because we had our dry kilns at night, sometimes the power would go off, and you didn't want to lose heat and that, so that's what I was going to hook that up for it. And then another friend come along and kind of introduced me he says, why don't you make your power solely that? And that's how it began. I started putting an engine in, and actually your father, Charlie, had 45, 46 years in here.
Something like that.
Yeah. So he and I started out on that, and that's how we grew into it. And obviously things got better. We weren't very good at making electricity at the beginning, and a lot of people thought maybe we weren't wrapped too tight, but it worked out. And then time went along, we were able to pick up gas wells and then drill a few of our own.
And that makes me think, and we've said it around here for years, and it's been adopted nationwide as far as being good stewards of the forest and our natural resources, and in our industry, a renewable natural resource, but we don't waste anything.
No.
We take our sawdust byproduct and you use it to co-generate heat.
Yep.
And I mean, everything from the shipping pallets coming in, getting ground up, to our off rippings, et cetera, so forth. And for a long time, we've said that we were green before people knew what green was.
Exactly. Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's a concerted effort to leave the smallest footprint that we can in respecting that natural resource that we use. Mm-hmm. And you, going back to the early beginnings, I know just through conversation over the years that you and the logging crew, you were in stands of timber at different times over the course of the years, because you went in and you select cut, and then 10 years later, 15 years, you might be back in that same woods, taking the mature trees out and leaving that young growth come again.
Exactly. Yes. And then, as a matter of fact, the home woods here, we just selective cut here, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's been a couple of years already.
Yeah, my brothers and I had cut most of the timber out of that back, and it regenerated thing, but still, as you grow, you need arises, and you do it, And if you don't have the technology or the knowledge to do it, then that's when you start reading, and that's how you put things together.
Yeah, and it's interesting that how you mentioned how our business has evolved, how our manufacturing practices and technology have advanced, and it's still trying to be good stewards towards that natural resource, and it works.
Yes.
In our hardwood forest, it works when it is managed properly.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate in having that renewable natural resource.
Yeah, there's all aspects to forestry. There is a time when the woods has to be clear cut. There is a time, most of the time, there is a time that can be regenerated by forestry practices called selective cutting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've, we're fast forwarding, from prior to 1960 actually, and then up to introducing the Weinig molders and shifting gears. And you touched on our customer base, and I can recall we had a customer base that included Mahoning County, Trumbull County, Portage County maybe, and
Yes.
a little bit down south towards St. Clairsville and that area.
Yeah.
And would you ever have dreamt that we would be in a position today serving all 50 states, or shipping lumber to all 50 states and all of Canada? We have sales representatives in 3 different states, and our delivery vehicle serving those 120-mile radius of Canfield, Ohio, with our delivery trucks. And we have 3 or 4 LTL common carrier companies taking your product all across the United States. Would you have ever dreamt that?
No, not. That's as things, change. That's some of what change goes on. And if you are not going to allow yourself to be in a position to change, then you're gonna. The end result is that you're not going to be in business long.
Oh, very much so. And I think back to when yourself and myself. I mean, we used to write orders on a order pad with a piece of carbon paper in between, and we did the math off to the side, and then the computers started coming on board, and how how sister hated that. and
Yeah.
but it happened, and like you said, we adapted, we evolved, and that led to something very special. Our website internet presence is a big part of this business today, no?
Exactly. And when you first started that, you had thoughts of, well, I don't know whether this is going to be good for us or not, but it's something that involved, and you grew into it, day by day. And we learned a lot. All this, when this all transpires, there's a lot of learning curves there, the whole way up from, like you mentioned, the first winding molder. That wasn't exactly a pretty thing either, right at the beginning.
No.
There was a lot of learning going on there, basically because it didn't work as they said it would. And then you have to kind of and then that's what I mean. You have to involve with it and learn. And if you don't have the fortitude to accomplish that, then it's going to be a lot tougher for you.
Okay, so you mentioned fortitude and confidence, and I just dove back to the late 70s, the early 80s, when we had started to produce a lot of moldings, but there was a downturn in housing, and you guys didn't sit back on your laurels.
No.
I know Richard was a driving force behind it, and you guys had conversation about it. There was a stretch of a few years there where we built picnic tables.
Exactly.
And it was, number one, we're always happy when we're making sawdust. And you guys have always had the mentality that you keep you guys busy. And we went through a very hard downturn. So what do? We made picnic tables for a well-known company at that time, right?
Yep.
That was Kmart, right?
That's right. Kmart, learned a lot of lessons over that. But
but we stayed busy. We stayed operational. And my gosh, I think at one time we were serving 33 states for supplying Kmart's with knockdown picnic tables. That we were assembling here, staining here, and something we had never done before there again.
Yeah. One thing I've always been proud of is that we've never had a layoff that we had due to the downturn in business in the 60 years that we've been in business. We've never had that.
And I was gonna ask you in our conversation today, what one of your proudest moments, whether it be with family or be with the business, and I think that statement that you just made of having never had a layoff in a 60-plus year company's history, that speaks volumes. Is there anything else that ranks up with that?
The one thing we were always proud of there for quite a long time, was we were able to afford the cost of healthcare for our business until healthcare started to climb up astronomically. And that went on for quite a few years that we were able to do that.
Oh yeah, and even today, it is still very affordable for our coworkers, your employees, to afford good quality health insurance.
Yes.
And in these very different times.
Exactly.
In these very different times. So,
exactly.
you started out yourself, two brothers. And I know we're somewhere surpassing 120 plus employees now.
Yes, probably closer to 130, yes.
We deal with a lot of personalities in a day's time, huh?
Yeah, all I have to do is walk around and see something. Obviously, with the times you have, people float in and out, but there's a lot of people that I say, I really don't know that guy, yet. And yes, that's the biggest change from knowing everyone, knowing the families, knowing, your children, knowing, and even back, it wasn't like when you had 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, and as time goes on, yes, you walk and you think, my gosh.
I think back and the cast of characters that you have employed over the years. Any of them stick out in your mind?
Oh, there's many. Yeah. Yeah, and you guys just leave it go at the characters at the end. We've been really fortunate as Steve could hear, but his dad started with us, and other people that we've known when we were in high school. And a good many of those guys stayed on to us until they have 40 something years retired. We had a lot of guys here that 30 to 40 years, and that's is pretty impressive. And we were all pretty much a family. You just
Yeah, and it makes me think. We've tried a lot of different things over the years.
Yes.
And there was some, no, let's not do it like that. Let's do it like this. It was a do-over.
Yeah.
So you learned and you went forward.
Yeah.
Looking back, is there any one thing that sticks in the back of your mind that says, man, I wish I could do that over?
Yeah, there is one. There's some of the not very many ventures that we went out of our wood business, but there is one that I would have liked to try to get is when we took a run at the casket business. Yeah, remember that one?
Yeah.
That one I would have liked to put a little different effort into it, but there's one basic thing I had an old friend of mine tell me way back when we were first starting out. He said, don't drift away from what you do and do well. He said, and we had not a bunch, but we did that a couple times. It was different. It still was tied to the wood business, but it was still, it was a little different.
But we always, and I'll say it is, we always come back home to, and we've said it around here for years.
Yes.
There's a certain product group that has built all these buildings on this facility, and it's what you guys cut your teeth on. It's what we learned to do very, very well.
Yeah.
And we go back to that, and that's
exactly
still the
right.
backbone of Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods.
Yes. And that's the old philosophy.
Right,
Yes.
right, and it's always been our job to instill that in some of the new guys and so forth, that we do quite a few things well.
Yes.
But there's a certain product group, 2, 3, 4 of them. You and I were talking earlier. Our moldings, our hardwood flooring, our interior doors, our stair components, that we don't do those very well. We're outstanding in what we do.
Exactly.
And that's, we've had the chance, yourself, myself, to travel the country, go to different facilities, and we produce a very nice product. And we've never lost sight of that when it falls into the hands of craftsmen around this country, in our local area. I have always said the Mahoning Valley, we're very blessed with some very good woodworking craftsmen, and they take our product and take it to the next level. They make it shine.
Yeah.
That made me think. We've recently, and 4 years ago we'd have never thought it, but we've had a chance to travel the East Coast and now to the Midwest with that group called This Old House.
Yes.
We had the privilege of hosting them here at the facility in Canfield, and when you see that caliber of a company align itself with your company, that has to make you feel kind of special.
Yes, it does. And once you realize how special that group is, and it kind of mirrors us a little bit, it almost has a family feeling I know that they're not, but still their whole premise of their business is, I think, floats into ours like that flows.
The company's philosophies parallel each other very well.
Right.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
a lot of things, and I know you are a very self-learned individual. I recognized that many years ago. Self-taught, self-learned, and what in the scope of the business and in life, what's one of the most valuable lessons that you've taken away from the business decisions? You know, we're both blessed with you know, great families.
Yes.
Anything jump out at when you look back like that?
Yeah, there's so many. Like you say, we're blessed with good families. When you have a family operation such as this, there has to be a special nucleus with that. You have to learn how to get along, and which we were blessed. We were the three brothers. We could get along from day one, you know, the whole way through. I don't care whether it was back when we were kids running a trap line, or we were out in the farm, or whatever. Oh, sure, you had your differences, but the main important ingredient to that is when you had your differences, you could work it out and go on.
And I've witnessed some of those differences.
Just some.
and that goes back to something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there was a powwow out in the middle of that gravel parking lot out front, and it might not have been resolved, but by 7 o'clock the next morning, it was resolved and everybody was fighting towards the same goal.
Exactly. Yeah, if you had differences, and all of us sitting here, you know that you had your own family, you had differences on that, but the unique thing with us was when you see each other every day, and a lot of this stuff, how many years did we work 6 days a week?
We still do.
Well, I sometimes go 7. But no, so yes, and you learn to be able to handle that and work through that. You know.
It's been it's had to have been quite the ride for you. I mean, we have a very complicated makeup. You know it better than anybody. We have the family element, now 3 generations deep. What do we got? We got 6 in the second generation. Mm-hmm. The 3 of you originally, 6 in the second generation, and I'm losing track because they're coming back on board pretty fast now. Yeah. The 3rd generation, what are we up to? 4, maybe 5, somewhere in there.
We're up at 5. Yes.
You know, I know your grandson Wyatt. Yeah. He's finishing up high school, and he's here now when he's not at school and jumping in and learning. You know, Richard's son Matthew and his daughter Lori, they have children involved. Yeah. And Howard has his grandson involved now, and so it's really coming full circle.
Yes.
It's really coming full circle, and I know you guys have busted your backs to turn a healthy business over to the next generation and the next generation, and that says a lot about Baird Brothers Family, Baird Family, and Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, and you guys extend that family environment to your employees. There's not an employee on this facility that cannot approach you.
Yes,
right?
That's right. No,
it's always been like that, right?
It's always been that way. Yes, always. Yeah. And my main philosophy in life is treat people like you would like to be treated yourself. It's just that's the basic that I've always worked with.
And I've heard you say that before, and that to the human side, and then to the business side, I've heard you say it numerous times, and I've quoted you on it numerous times. You do not want a product leaving this facility and going into one of our customers' homes that you would not want that same product in your own home.
That's exactly right. Yeah. When I put in my home, I want the same product to go to the people that buy our product. And I want the day that we're the happiest is when they have that in their home and they're satisfied with it.
You know, and that's so true. I mean, we've had the luxury of experiencing that over the years, and it's still what we strive for every day. And one thing about it, and in representing and selling our product over the years, if there was a hiccup, I was always able to tell people, we've been at the same address since 1960. We're not going nowhere.
Exactly.
We're going to stand beside you, and we're going to make sure everything's right. And we always have.
Yeah, right. The scope of business that you're doing, we do, and in any business, there's gonna be a problem once in a while, and that's one of our promises is we're not happy until you're satisfied, and whatever it takes to do it, that's the way it is.
Exactly. So I'm thinking that's about all we have time for today. We covered a lot of ground. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and just have a conversation. And give us a little insight on Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, you know, here in Canfield, Ohio, and the evolution that we've gone through. And hey, we look forward to putting our boots on tomorrow and coming to work, right?
Yep, I hope to see my shadow every day.
Thanks, Hatch. For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at bairdbrothers.com. Until next time. Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. Welcome everybody back here at Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. I have a very special guest today. I have one of the second generation Bairds, Mr. Matt Baird. How you doing this morning, Matt?
Okay, Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, we're hanging in there. We're hanging in here. Thanks for stopping by, affording us some time.
Thank you.
I know you've got a lot of stuff going on this time of year, but just so that people know, and like a lot of us over here at the mill, we wear different hats. You got a different hat on today. What's your responsibilities today?
Well, this is my wintertime look here. I always wear a dress hat in the wintertime. My responsibilities here, I call myself general manager, plant manager, although there's a lot of Bairds that work here. I handle a lot of the day-to-day things. Always my favorite spot to be is selling lumber or being in the lumber mill. Don't always get there every day. As far as a lot of folks know, when you own a business, you wear a lot of different hats.
It's always been that way around here.
Absolutely.
It's always been that way around
Everybody covers everybody, and that's why we've been such a success. Steve and I have been together since we were kids. We won't tell you how old we are now, but we're not 22 anymore. We've had some fantastic times here. We've had highs, we've had lows. Steve's done an excellent job here. We all come up through the ranks from working in the old sawmill to working in the finish mill, to working in sales, to our managerial positions that we have now within the company.
You know, my mind is like in overload right now, just listening to you speak. And we had the fortune, the privilege of serving a tutelage underneath 4 very important people.
Yes.
And you know exactly who I'm referencing.
Well, I'm going to say 5 very important people because Steve's dad was our sawmill superintendent here, and Charlie come to work with us in 1971 or 2.
Yeah.
And was here a lifetime, and he was as close to my dad. He was like a brother to my dad. If we were working on Sunday, Charlie was working here on Sunday.
So yeah, and thanks for that mention. You know, Felix would appreciate it.
Yeah, that was his nickname, Felix.
And,
So,
but you know, you had we still have Hatch,
yep,
Uncle Hatch.
yep,
We served underneath Howard
yep,
and Sister Helen and your father,
yeah,
Richard.
yes.
Wow, what we were taught.
We were taught a lot. I think the most important thing, we were taught responsibility and how to work. And that even we as kids, you know, how old were you when you started here? 16?
16.
You know, I've been pounding this concrete since I was 5. And I'm 56 now. Yeah, it was hard work, but, you know, and like I said about his dad, Charlie, I learned more off of Charlie Stack as a kid growing up than I could have possibly learned at any trade school anywhere in the country. Just a quiet, patient, fantastic craftsman. And I learned a lot off of him, as I learned off of my uncles and my aunt.
You know, and they weren't afraid to share their knowledge.
No, yeah.
And you know, you've known guys over the years. I've known guys over the year. They knew how to do something specific, and they wouldn't share it.
Yeah, not everybody's a teacher. No.
And we had that fortune.
Yes, we did.
And I'm thinking, they set a direction for this company.
Yes.
And one of those things, we're having a second generation in place that understood the business, understood the hardwood lumber industry. And one of the first things that they did for you as a younger man was they sent you down to Memphis. Why'd you go to Memphis?
Well, you know, as far as kids that are in the lumber business coming in, I went to Memphis, Tennessee. I went to National Lumber Inspection School down there. You're down there, when I went, you were down there about 6-7 months. And when you were done, you come home with a license. And it's just not a basic knowledge. I mean, we learned a rule book down there. The guy that taught me, it was word for word. And the lumber inspection rules were word for word. I was in there with kids my age. I was 18. I was in there with kids that were just got out of college, that were going to go into sales. I was in there with guys that were 60 that were pursuing a second career.
Yeah, and that's you know it, I know it, we both appreciate it. It's just not lumber. It's
No.
You know, whether it be the walnut, the cherry, the maple, the hickory. I mean, we receive it. Back in the day, it came off of a stump.
Yep.
to the mill that we used to have here.
Yes.
And then we took it through the manufacturing process. Today, we buy the sawn lumber in and take it through manufacturing. But our product, your father said it, Hatch still says it, our product goes into our customers' homes.
Absolutely.
And we have a certain criteria that we work hard at maintaining.
Yes, we do.
You know,
I tell people, and you know, maybe this is boasting, this is bragging, but it's not. I tell people, and I tell our folks that work here, whether you're the last guy I hired, cut your moldings on the back of a molder, you're a setup technician, you're an engineer, we have got to be the best in the world at what we do. And I honestly think that we are. You know, I always say when you come here and you buy a product, I want you to be satisfied and come back the third and fourth time. I don't want you to come here for one project and be done with us. And you know, Steve can tell you, through the years, our clients continually, people will come back to me, or I'll see people in town when I'm eating my lunch or whatever out, and they'll say, you know, I did my house with you and back in 1976. You know, but they're back in here, they put an addition on that house, and they're back in here buying our products for the third and fourth time.
you know, that's a great representation of our product. I've heard you say it. We strive to get everything right the first time.
Yes, we do.
sometimes something will slip through the crack.
Absolutely. And
We've-
that's life. I mean, you're going to make mistakes. But
We've-
the thing is, with those mistakes we make, we're here. You can talk to me, you can talk to him, we'll fix it, we'll make it right.
You know, and I, in what seems to be a previous life here at the mill, being an outside salesperson, that was like the best trump card. It was like diffusing a bomb. If you had a situation, you could look at our customer
Yeah,
in the face and say, guess what?
yeah,
We've been at 7060 Quarry Road since 1960.
yes,
We're not picking up and moving.
No.
We're going to be here until we get you fixed up.
absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and we live by that.
Yeah, you know, and another thing with our quality of our product, you know, this is my take and my life and what I do. We maintain custody of that product from the green lumber to the dry kills to the rip saw building in through our molding plant. Our moldings are all finished. We try to finish them at 25 knife marks to the inch, you know, so they don't look like a corn cob when you stain them. And everything's heated, everything's climate controlled, humidity controlled. We maintain custody of that product until it goes to your project.
So you talk about climate control, and I'm thinking back, two stories pop out in my head. Number one, January in Northeast Ohio, and back when we had the sawmill, guys would come in to our little retail makeshift
Yes,
area that we had,
yes,
and they'd want to load up 4 dozen 1x6 16-foot rough cut oak fence boards.
absolutely.
And we'd go out there with
We handled a lot of that stuff, didn't we?
with a sledgehammer,
Yeah.
because the lumber was green. It was froze in a dead stack bunk,
Yep.
and you'd tap them loose and you'd load the guy. Why anybody would want to put fence up in January,
I don't know, but boy, we
they
did a
always
lot
did.
of that. Yes,
they
we
always did.
Yeah, yeah,
That, number one. Number two, prior to you going to Memphis, and on your return back from Memphis, and correct me if I'm wrong on the timetables, but there's a gentleman we used to call Baron,
yep,
and that's when we used to stick lumber outside.
yes.
There was a 55-gallon fire pit drum.
Yeah, it sucked a lot of heat out of that baby. Yeah, the story was with Baron, his name was Richard Sisney. National Lumber Inspection, he went down there. That guy knew that rule book like telling a story, and took great pride in what he did. And you know, back in the sawmill days, we stuck all that lumber. That stick yard was either 10 below or 110, and we would. And I did the same thing when I come home, because Richard, unfortunately, passed away. I was supposed to go to 2 more schools, and I didn't go to those schools, and I stayed here. And but yeah, like Steve's saying, with a sledgehammer, beat the boards apart, flip them, measure them, grade them, and stick them.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was all work, 100% work.
It was a different time, but
Yeah.
but that's what the 3 boys did, breaking in, starting a new business back in the late 50s, 1960 incorporation, et cetera, and so forth, and it gave you an appreciation.
Absolutely. You know, at the end of the ball game, I know from the time I was 5 years old, this was all I ever wanted to do. I wanted to be a better tree cutter, a better woodworker, a better businessman, not to be a big shot, to make my people proud. I always, and I did. You know, I thought when I'd go to school, I'd say, "Hey, what'd you do this weekend?" I thought everybody went to work with their dad. Well, I watched cartoons. I was up here, we were building pallets from the time I could pick a 1x4 up and throw it up on the jig. So, yeah, I've always loved this industry. Always loved it.
You know, we've seen, at this facility in Canfield, Ohio, yearly, from the time we were in, you know, our late teens and coming on board and working here every day, and we've seen significant growth.
Yes.
But that growth was doable because of something that we still, as a company, focus on today. Reinvestment into our capital assets.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, myself, my cousins, my parents, my uncles, my aunt, we don't have boats down in Florida. We don't have a big house up on Erie. We have always taken our earnings and reinvested them back into our company and our community, and that's very important to us.
So that allows us, back in the day, I can remember we were 25 employees, 30
Yes.
employees, and now we're in excess of 100 employees, and you know, there's a lot of good that spins out of this nucleus that we call home.
Yes.
And you know, touch on, and I know you've got stories. We had your father had a big heart. There was another guy who used to float around here. His name was Whitey Cleo.
Yep.
And if it was on his back, you were welcome to it.
Yeah.
That's-
Soul of the earth. Yeah.
Right?
That was my Uncle Whitey. He was married to my Aunt Helen, and Aunt Helen worked here. He was a steel truck driver, and then he retired, and then he come to work with us. And he would run. He'd go to town and get parts, and you know that was his deal. And his station wagon, and yeah, soul of the earth guy. Yeah.
You know, I don't know how many times I heard, well, on Friday, guys get their paychecks. They open their paycheck and they say, well, I got to go square up with Cleo. He lent me $20 on Tuesday.
That's the way he was. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but those are life's lessons.
They are. And I learned a lot from him. I really did.
Yeah.
I really did. Just not about trucks. I learned a lot of lessons in life from him. You know, we'd be down at the farm down here eating lunch, and I'd tell him, hey, you know what? He'd say, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to do it. And he was right. You know, I didn't need to do what I was going to do. Yeah, but he was a fantastic guy.
So we fast forward a little bit, and we talk about when we put what I'll call the actual first retail showroom in. It was all of about 200 square feet.
Yeah, that was a big deal back then. Yeah,
it was a big deal. We went from a single walk-in door as a main entrance to a 6-foot double door as a main entrance.
Yeah.
And we actually had 2 little counters, yourself, myself, Scotty, Howard, your dad on Saturdays. We'd jump in and we'd work that little retail showroom. And
boy, weren't our clients great. I mean, our clients are fantastic today, and thank you. But back then, you'd be out here. You know, the only way you could buy lumber was through Steve on the road, or you come to this new retail location. You know, we didn't have online sales, and that was but we would have cars from Pittsburgh and Cuyahoga Falls and Akron and Cleveland, and yeah, it was just a fantastic time.
Yeah, that was in.
I think that's when it clicked for me that, hey, you know what? It always clicked for me, but you know what? We got something here.
That was in the late 70s, early 80s, and we saw growth and expansion, and then back in 1988, we experienced a devastating fire.
Oh my goodness!
And
Sure was. Yeah.
I recall your dad saying, well, the night of the fire, and I've gone through some newspaper articles lately that we're gonna be sharing with the folks on our social and so forth. But I remember the night of the fire. It was a unified group of guys, ownership, employees. There was never a question. It was going to be rebuilt.
Yes.
And that's when we put the addition on the front of the molding facility,
Yes.
the molding plant, and we went a little bit bigger again.
Absolutely.
And what a great time that was, because in 1989 we had our grand reopening. Mm-hmm. We worked out of a mobile trailer office and out in front of the parking lot.
I remember Jerry Ricciuti was here. I was a fireman on 2 fire departments for 25 years, and I remember that night of the fire when my radio went off, and I thought, it must just be a hot fan or something. So I pile in my truck. I come over the hill down here at Leffingwell Road at Redgate Farm, and you could look down here. It was like daylight. That's how involved it was. And Jerry Ricciuti from Channel 27 come out the next morning, and I interviewed with him, and he says, well, you know, how long are you guys going to be shut down to rebuild? I said, we'll be in business tomorrow morning. And we were. We operated out of an old house trailer. In our showroom, we took an old loading dock in the front of this building over here, and we makeshift that, and we run out of there. We never missed a step.
No, that next morning, I think at that time it was still going by Ohio Bell.
Yeah.
They came out, ran some new lines. We dropped the phone on a post, and we had phone. I mean, so we're talking 1989. The phone was our livelihood.
It was. Yeah, it was.
The
it was
phone in our walk-in, and I remember the day after the fire, we had folks coming in to pick up lumber.
Yeah, we did. We served. Yeah, guys were coming in, folks were coming in, and we were selling lumber. Thank goodness that our main warehouse.
Right.
Yeah, if that wind would have been coming out of the south that night, we'd have lost everything.
Yeah.
And this building over here, the main warehouse, is like a box of matches.
So you know, at that point, that was a time in the company's history that you and your cousins were coming of age, starting to fill positions, take on more responsibilities, and it wasn't always the easiest ride.
No.
But
no.
We went from 3 principals, and now we have, what do you have, 6 in your generation?
Our second,
Right.
Yeah, 6.
6 in your generation, yourself, your sister, Hatches, Tim and Terry, and Howard, Scott, and Mark. And dang, if we don't see history repeating itself again.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many of your children do you have at the facility now?
3. I have 5 children, and I have 3 of them that work here. I have Zachary. He's a mechanical engineer. He come home from Goodyear. He's my plant engineer now. Benny is my plant manager in the molding plant. And then I have a daughter, Sarah, who was a state meat inspector. Her and her husband farmed 1,200 acres. They wanted to have a baby. We can't be a state meat inspector and call a kid out of bed at 3:30 in the morning. So now I'm lucky. She's in my office, and she's my head accountant here.
And all along the way, I've had the privilege of witnessing it. Responsibilities are being passed on. Number 1. Number 2, more importantly, values are being passed on.
Absolutely.
As with all the 3rd generation. Pretty solid group of kids.
Yes, they are.
And I'll call them kids out of no disrespect, but they're still kids. And
well, people still call you and I kids. So.
Yeah. Those days are gone.
Yeah.
But you know, it's good to see, and you and I, from a similar generation, would you have ever thought you would carry an iPhone around in your pocket and be able to do the business that we've done? We came from a time where we wrote orders
all
out.
Hand orders. Yeah.
We did that other thing called what? Math.
Yeah.
We had to do math.
That machine. Yeah.
And would you have ever thought?
No.
You know,
I'd have never thought when we were kids. You know, I always knew as long as we worked hard and we tried to be as good a business people as we were, and leaders, and you know, and I always say, in the other half of that equation, okay, you know, I laid down in bed one night and told my wife, I said, man, I've been in the lumber business for over 40 years legally, and is the people that along the way. I could sit here and we could do a whole segment on people that when we started to present day, we're only as good as our people, and we have a fantastic staff.
We really
always
do.
have had it. Yes, we've always had a fantastic staff.
You know, you talk about our staff, our workforce. We've as a country, we're still trying to come through this pandemic scenario. You know, we had a 2-week shutdown back in late March a year ago, over a year and a half ago now, and last week of March, first week of April, out of concern for everybody's safety, it was decided, the family decided, we're going to shut it down. And through that first week, we would be getting some phone calls, and we'd sneak in and we'd get a contractor, this or that, or, you know, we had customers driving down from Cleveland, hey, I need this stuff, you know. And when we partially reopened, the showroom didn't open, but the manufacturing did, we figure we had about 85% of our workforce come back voluntarily.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it wasn't too long after that everybody started to trickle back in. So that speaks volumes.
Oh,
about,
it does.
You
Yeah,
know.
I never had one person tell me I'm not coming back to work yet.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, what do you want me to do? I'm like, hey, I want you to come in, and they were here, you know, and that's the way it's always been with our people.
Well, there's 5 offices upstairs on that balcony, and those doors are always open.
Absolutely.
And I think that is a reflection of the response we saw from
Yes.
my coworkers, your employees, on the return from being shut down for a couple weeks. And I can't go any further without, you know, saying to our customers in the Mahoning Valley, to our customers regionally in Cleveland and in Pittsburgh, and across the United States for that matter, what a response they had during this whole episode.
Yeah, they're rock stars.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was phenomenal that we were going through all that, and that those folks come in here, because I actually myself went to the front gate for how long?
Oh yeah,
Where are you going? What do you need? Yes, sir. No, ma'am. And it worked. When we started that, I thought, this is going to be a nightmare. It worked. And, you know, and I just got to tell our clients, thank you. You know, we did business, and it worked.
because of our customers. There was a need, and
Yeah.
we were able to. That's when we instituted pretty much a no contact.
Yes.
Call your order in, place your order
Pull
online.
your truck in, back in, you're loaded, you're gone.
You know, we had that tent set up down at the gate, and you would receive them, or I would receive them, or okay, yeah, I'm here to pick up order so and so. Direct them to a building. They pulled up, they got loaded, they got down the road.
Yeah.
And then we a month or so into that, then we were able to open the showroom by appointment only.
Yes.
And but it changed the buying profile.
Yes.
And you know, it's important for folks to know that we have the retail facility, the retail showroom. We have a great staff of phone salesmen. You know, our counter sales guys are there, the phone sales guys are there. We have our outside sales staff, and we leapfrogged to a new era.
Yes, we did.
Wow, this will call is pretty nice. If I'm a contractor,
Yeah.
I can place my order at 6 o'clock in the evening before I have dinner at home, and I can have one of my guys come in at 8:30 the next morning, pick it up, be in and out of here, be at the job site by 9,
Yeah.
and working.
Yeah.
You know, it's important for them to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
But the old 330-533-3122 phone number, that's still a lifeline to us.
It is. It is.
You know, we have always been that hands-on. We want to talk to you.
Yeah.
We
When
wanna
you call
talk
in
to
here, you're going to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
It's knowledgeable about what they're talking about.
And along the way, we've we've experienced a ton of great things.
Yes, we have.
We've had some hard times. Your father, Richard, he was one of many quotes that I can recite from him. He'd say, you know what, we'd be going through a hard time. And he'd say, you know what, the only thing we can do, Hood, get up in the morning, put our work boots on, and try and make something good.
Yep. And we did.
It was that philosophy.
We did.
And that has allowed us as a company, us as individuals, grow 3 years ago. 3.5 years ago. We hosted a group, a national television show here on the property, and that was in the form of this old house. And I remember we had quite a crowd that day. It was a fun day. But I remember Scotty, your cousin, saying, Dad would never believe this.
No, they would have never believed that. No.
You know, and that was a milestone.
Yes.
You know, prior to that,
Yeah.
I look back as a milestone when we decided we weren't going to be able to survive off of a fantastic market, but a smaller market, the Mahoning Valley, and we started into Cleveland and Pittsburgh with regional home shows. That was another first for us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you really recognize an appreciation for our customer and vice versa, our customer appreciating us. When you go, and I know you go and you wander around and you talk to people, and as do I, and we have relationships in excess of 35 years.
Absolutely. Yes,
with
we
customers.
Do. Yes, we do.
And you know, that's another appreciation. It's not the fact that I want to sell you lumber.
No. No, it's about, business. At the end of the day, business is about relationships. I can sell you lumber or whatever business transaction we're doing. You need to trust me, and I need to be able to trust in you. And I think we've done it. We've always tried to do a good job at that.
Yeah, our feet were held to the fire to do it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's been an amazing in excess of 40 years.
Yes.
For me, and I wonder our little Studio 3B here.
Yeah, who'd ever thought we'd have our own TV studio? Thank you to you. You've driven this project.
It's been fun, and we're attempting to go to another level.
Yes.
We're going to use this studio just like for today, having discussion with ownership, co-workers, customer contractors. We're going to have everybody, in here and out of here. But it's another avenue, another venue for people to go to our content studio that houses all of our profiles, our Build It with Baird, our American Hardwood Advisor, and our plan room, and there's a couple others. But if you want to learn about Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods,
yes,
and the Baird Brothers family, the Baird Brothers employees, that's where you want to land. Contentstudio.bairdbrothers.com.
Oh, what a fantastic thing.
And
it tells a story.
Exactly, and it goes back to what you were alluding to earlier, that trust.
Yes.
I'm sitting in the middle of Texas, and I want to place a nice hardwood lumber order, and I have it on my screen ready to push that button and put my credit card in. I'm ordering lumber from a guy in a cornfield in Canfield, Ohio.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So you have to get over that.
Yes.
That reservation of, well, do I want to? Don't I want to? And so now, you want to know something about us? visit the website, visit the
Absolutely.
content studio, and listen to some of the podcasts. You know, sitting around the house at night, go see some of the projects that we're doing with folks and some of the interviews we're doing with folks, and get a little better understanding, and hopefully it's going to be enough to push them to, hey, these guys are okay.
At the end of the day, I think something that we offer that maybe a lot of our competitors don't, with all the electronic and social media and everything. Hey, if you got to pick the phone up. We'll talk to you. I'm in the office every day. You can pick that phone up and call me. If I'm not here, I'll call you back. So.
Yeah.
And same with Steve. So yeah. If you just want to talk about, hey, I got a kitchen floor, I need crown molding, or our sales representatives. Every one of those guys are very, very well versed in what we do.
So, the big question: where do we go from here? You know, I'm of a mindset. I never thought I would be learning some of this stuff today that it takes to do business. And I'm referring to our third generation fill-in slots.
Yes.
On the electronic side, the device side, the digital era, the streaming era, we still want to be in front of our customer. We still want to offer that high quality product at somewhat of a value. And so here we go again. You know, we're doing as much business in the clouds as we are out of our storefront.
And for me myself, I think it's a real privilege for me to be part of that. I mean, Steve's talking about the high tech, the streaming, the internet, social media. You know, on the other side of the coin is we get right down and we are old-fashioned quality, and we're going to be here to make the best products that we can make, and we're always available. So we have the best of two worlds. We have the high tech, but yet we have the one-on-one.
You know, and I'll throw it out there. You and I were just discussing this a couple weeks ago, and big isn't always better.
Absolutely not. That's correct.
And we've got an attitude that was passed down to us. That guy that you called your father, he told me one time, we're driving home from Cleveland, he'd always go out for me on a ride and see what was going on, and always kept his hand on the pulse of what was going on and his customers. And we're coming home from Cleveland one day, and he says, Hood, he says, there's a lot of opportunity out here. He said, however big of a piece of that pie we can get, he says, we never want to lose sight that is going to be the best piece of pie that person has ever ate.
Yes.
And they'll come back for that piece of pie again.
Yes.
And like you say, we work hard at getting things right. When we don't get things right, we want to minimize the inconvenience, and we're going to be here to get it hashed out.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you buy products from us, when you buy our product and it's in your home, I will give you a personal guarantee that it will be right. And if it isn't, when it ships out of here, where you get it installed in your home, it's coming back out and you're getting a new shipment. You'll never be disgusted with our company, I promise.
That sums it up, Matthew. Hey, appreciate reflecting.
Absolutely. Man, we could sit here and talk all day, Steve.
Yeah. And thanks for allotting some time for us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And hey, folks, stay tuned. More to come from Studio 3B in Canfield, Ohio, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at bairdbrothers.com. Until next time. Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. Hello everybody, Steve Stack here, back at Studio 3B. We've got a really neat little segment for you today on the American Hardwood Advisor. I have a special guest, a third generation Baird, Miss Sarah Schaefer. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, thanks for taking the time to come back and join us. And you are a recently newer addition to 7060 Croy Road. You've been around your whole life, but you had a little adventure before you wound up back here. So welcome back home.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
And I gotta ask, you've been a busy young lady. Went through high school, went off to school at the Ohio University of Worcester, right? Mm-hmm. What did you study at Worcester?
So I studied animal science at Ohio State Worcester.
And you came out of Worcester, and where'd you go from there?
So from Worcester, I got a job with the state of Ohio as a meat inspector, and I inspected local meat processing plants for about 2 years.
And I didn't realize it was 2 years. So you've got some miles behind you. Did some traveling in the process of visiting the different facilities. Probably met some friends.
Oh, absolutely.
Made some new acquaintances, right? And your background, that seemed fitting, right? I mean, you were born and raised on a farm around the animals. You were active the whole way through with the 4-H programs and the open shows and showing pigs, showing cattle, messed with the horses a little bit.
Oh yeah, draft horses a little bit there.
You know, so you were definitely involved in that the agricultural side of things, which that's cool. And at some point, you decided to come back to Croy Road. And we're glad you did. We're really glad you did. You can tell the folks, or I can introduce, you have a beautiful baby girl, 7 months old, I think, somewhere around there. And she kind of persuaded you to come back to Croy Road.
Absolutely, yeah.
a little easier having a standard hours kind of job versus the facilities that you had to visit at all hours of day and night.
Absolutely.
Good. And you and your husband are still heavily involved in the agriculture.
Yeah. We have a crop farm in Greenford, Ohio, and we also have some livestock, and we do freezer beef. So
you've got the agricultural side covered, and through previous conversations you and I've had, and you explained the difference to me, and you say you grow crops. That's your typical corn, soybean, but you guys take it a step further, and you guys produce food grade crops, correct?
Yeah, we dip a little bit into food grade soybeans.
So what's the difference?
There's certain seed and fertilizer, and there's a lot of rules and regulations when it comes to food grade beans. But the advantage for us raising them is there's a huge selling advantage. They sell at a much higher price than just your conventional beans would.
So, attention to detail in tracking your the crops and the fertilizers and even the harvesting technique and, and the sorting and so forth. So that transition to your knowledge of detail and the practice of detail transitioned you right into the role that you've taken up here at the offices. And go ahead and tell the folks what you're up to on your day-to-day here at the mill.
Yeah, so day-to-day I handle all of the accounts receivable for our accounts. And I also assist my Uncle Scott in payables. I do most of the bill entering and things here and there for him. If he's off, I cover in his spot. And so that's what I've been doing here. And a lot of my previous experiences has really helped me as far as, record keeping and working with the public. And, a lot of it may not directly apply, but there was a lot of indirect skills that I learned in those years that I've brought back.
And those are all very important. But I think we're missing one of the most important, and sometimes being in the accounts receivable department might not be the most enviable task, but you bring a personality that allows you to kind of smooth things over a little bit when need be, or, and I've seen it, you can be pretty tough.
Yeah, so I grew up with 4 brothers. So I've learned throughout the years, I'm pretty laid back for the most part. You have to be with 4 brothers or else you'd be pulling your hair out a lot. And, but I've also learned when it's time to put your foot down and hold your line.
And one thing that I respect of you, and you came in over the years. You've heard some of the names of the customers and this and that, but if you run into a situation, there's always a backstory. And if you run into a situation, you've got yourself into the habit of coming and talking to me or to Mr. Donatelli or to Scotty or your dad, Matt, and every situation that you encounter is unique. And it has to be treated like such, no? Oh,
absolutely. There's around here, I guess I've been working here for around 2 years now, and but that's nothing. It's like 30 years, I think, is the minimum to now. So there's certainly
What was that in reference to?
There's a lot of people around here that have much more knowledge on contractors and previous situations that we've been in. So I try to, whenever I get in a situation I'm not sure how to navigate, just use my resources along the way, and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and it's a big task, and you're doing a fantastic job of it, and like a lot of us, you're gonna build life's relationships with a lot of these people. I mean, you and I both know we're nothing without them, and we have to find a way to make a two-way street work and have that line of communication and go on to the next project and the one after that. So again, nice job on that. We've touched on the task of the accounts receivable side. I think that's the smaller challenge of your day-to-day. Right now, I know you're situated in the same office as your father. How in the world does that work out throughout the course of the day?
Well, I don't think anybody here has their own office, so I don't have many options. But no, I enjoy working next to my dad day to day. It's really a privilege to just get to have his wisdom and knowledge sitting right there in the desk next to me, and be a part of that, because he's worked hard here in his life, and he has knowledge that is unmatched to me or to any of my siblings. And so we definitely need his guidance along the way, and it's nice having him right there.
And that's important, and I don't have to remind you because you appreciate it every day. And I had the same fortune of up until the time I moved out of the house, I rode to work every day with my father and came here for years and years and years. And then we worked side by side here. You not only have your father, you've got your 2 brothers. brothers.
Zach and Ben.
Okay, and then you have the matriarch,
Oh, yes, the one and the only.
Miss Margot,
Yes,
Grandma,
my
right?
grandma.
And we can't go over, we can't overlook the fireball who heads up our human resources and and your Aunt Lori, right?
Absolutely.
So you really have, you know, you experience it, I've experienced it, we talk about, a lot of people talk about it. It's a family business, there's got to be problems.
Oh, absolutely.
But end of the day, you're all still family.
Yeah.
And people that have never experienced it, and we can never take it for granted. It's a privilege working with your family.
It is, and
Right.
I think that's one of the things that I gained so much, you know, in my years working for the state and going to school and stuff is I came back with a different appreciation that I don't think I would have had coming in the gate right out of high school.
It's a big world out there.
It is, yes, it's very big.
You know what? And in mentioning that, your Aunt Lori, she did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Your brother Zach did the same thing.
Yeah,
Benny, he went out and tried some different things. And when you come back to the family business, you guys are held to the same regard as everybody else on this facility,
absolutely, yeah.
right? And the street might be paved, but it's not always smooth.
There's definitely some potholes along the way.
Yeah, so, and that's good. That's good, because that brings that appreciation. It brings appreciation to family. It brings appreciation to your coworkers, and brings appreciation to our customers and the business as a whole. And that's something that your grandfather Richard, one of the things he appreciated most was two of the things: his employees and his customers. You know, and so it's great to see that being picked up by the third generation, and keeping that in our approach to our customer base and moving forward and beyond. You know, you've been around as long as I can remember, from the time you were Gracie's age at 7, right? Anything in particular, looking back, memories that you know influenced you in saying, you know what, I want to go back to Quarry Road. I belong there. Any memories you can share with us?
So I think just like along the way, you know, working with family has its challenges. It's not easy at all, but I think it says a lot that along the way, everybody's still here. We're still one family. And when you take a step back and look at that, it's pretty impressive because, you know, it's not easy, but we all still come together at the end of the day. So for me, I look back at that and I see everybody still here, still together, and that's something I want to be a part of.
And you hit on something, and I don't know for our audience, they may or may have not heard me say, going back to when, I won't say how old I was, back in the mid to late 70s. Excuse me. One thing stood out stands out in my mind. Your Uncle Howard, your Uncle Hatch, who is still here every day in his pickup truck, and your Grandpa Richard. Before the day was over, they would spend 5-10 minutes circled around the bed of a pickup truck and having conversation, communication with each other. Sometimes it was loud, other times it wasn't. But everybody came back in the morning with the same goal.
Yeah, and that still very much happens today. It might not be out in the parking lot around the bed of a pickup truck. It might be in an office or, you know, in another situation, but it still very much happens today.
Oh yeah, and it's important. You, along with 5 other third generation. We're up to 6 third generation now, correct? You know, we've talked with yourself, with your cousins, with your aunts and uncles, just like when they were coming into the business as second generation, and just like you guys, with fire in your belly and, you know, let's take on the world, and I've said it to you guys, as I said it to your aunts and uncles and your father. They're going to listen to whatever you guys say, right? Mm-hmm. Do they always act on it?
No, there's definitely a lot of opinions and a lot of different ideas as to, you know, how to grow the business and how to evolve and make different things better. That, you know, this is a larger business, and I don't understand everything that Ben does in a day, and, you know, we don't all understand we understand what everybody does, but we don't have the knowledge, the nitty-gritty detail, you know. And so when someone comes to the table with an idea, it really takes all of us, as all portions of the business, to come together and decide whether or not it's going to be something that works. And with that, I will say the second generation has done an amazing job at hearing us all along the way. And not everything is going to happen the way we think it's going to happen, or our ideas are not necessarily going to be put into play, but they will at least sit down and hear what we have to say, and that's probably the start to any struggle. And
that's so important. And we have an ongoing project right now that I know you're involved with. Your brother Benny on the manufacturing side, and Zach on the engineering and manufacturing side. Tyler on the IT side, and with his two guys over in IT, and with a new computer system that we want to launch, make us more efficient, service our customers better. But it takes all that input from, and you guys are scattered across the board, from front offices to manufacturing, everywhere in between. And as a group, we bring that all to a meeting, maybe not all at once, different meetings, whatever, and we kick it around.
Absolutely, yeah. I was just at a meeting this morning, and similar situation with the computer system. Just it takes all different opinions. There's so many portions to this business, and we all have to work together to make it happen.
Very much so, very much so. And you know, that it's exciting to see, and I know my feelings on it, see you and your cousins, the third generation, coming in and taking active major roles in our day-to-day. How do you see that growing?
So I think we were all raised to come in and to take the bull by the horns and do everything we can to help. And I definitely see that in the situation, in our current situation. And I see throughout the years everybody evolving in their roles and maybe moving to different roles. But in the end, I think, you know, we all will evolve into where we're supposed to be. Right now I'm in accounts receivable. Maybe I'll end up there, maybe I won't. And same with some of my other cousins. You know, Brandon and Dylan are helping in the trim shop, and Dylan goes out on trucks, and he does all kinds of different things. But I see us all evolving, and I think time will tell where we'll end up.
And very, very well said in that there's been certain things ingrained into you guys, and work ethic, value of customer, quality product, and those are some things that can never change. We know that.
Yeah.
We've lived it.
Absolutely.
and it's important that we keep that while we move forward, and
yeah, definitely want to keep our core values intact throughout.
We have a profile in that here in our region, especially the Mahoning Valley, we're the big fish in the small pond. But as you know, our business is going national now, and we're a small fish in a much larger pond.
Yeah.
But we have to be the best small fish out there. And if we grow up to be a medium fish, that's good too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we still have to be the best at what we do.
Yes.
And we try that every day. Can you think back over your time here at the mill, any significant changes that you've seen, implementation of new equipment, different procedures and policies that we put in place? Anything jump out at you?
So I think that's, like we previously talked about, the biggest change and I feel one of the biggest improvements for us will be this new computer system. We're operating on a very outdated system, and I think we can do a lot better in a lot of areas in servicing our customers and in making things easier for our salesmen and keeping tallies and orders and things just better all around. I think the computer system will definitely be a project that we'll see through, that is going to make a big change for this company.
I think so. The computer system has served us well. With growth and just aging, it's become antiquated, and it's time to refresh and update and leave room for expansion and building out that system down the road as as we grow and like you said, to your point of allowing us to better serve our customers, having information readily available and incorporating them into our new systems. So yeah, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
That's a biggie.
And also I've seen my brother, Zach, come back. He was working for another company out in Kansas, and Zach brings definitely a very intense personality to the table, and I think he's going to be really an asset in moving some things around and really making our production and different things, fixing it along the way to where I don't know that some other people could do it. I tend to be a more laid back person, as I already said, but he's definitely an intense person, but I think we need that here.
And I'll rebut you a little bit on that, in that I know that you're a let's get this done kind of person also.
Yeah.
Zach, in his previous stint away from home, again, it's a big world out there.
Oh yeah.
And he saw how some manufacturing was accomplished at a different scale in a different industry. And you're right. He definitely brings some assets back with him, and that's exciting too.
Yeah.
And speaking of exciting, not that the past year or so hasn't been exciting for you, year and a half, 2 years when you were married, and now with your new addition in Gracie. I know you're talking about here in the near future, hopefully, starting construction of a new home.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an exciting time.
Oh, absolutely. We're so excited too.
And just promise me one thing.
Oh dear.
No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I've stood in hundreds and thousands of homes, and I've witnessed the arguments between contractors, between the homeowner, the husband and the wife. Keep it fun.
Oh yeah.
Do your homework.
Oh, absolutely.
And keep it fun.
Yeah.
And it's going to be. It will be fun. And know that there's a whole staff here.
Oh yeah.
That you can bounce ideas off of, and we'll give you as much misdirection as we can give you. So
yeah.
But honestly, seriously, and I know your wheels are turning 6, 8, 10 months, a year down the road. What kind of products are you thinking about using in your new house?
Oh, so My husband has kind of left the interior up to me. He says, you know more about this than I do, so I'm thankful for that. But I truly think putting hardwoods in your home is such an unmatched beauty. And I don't think any other material can capture the beauty that hardwoods does. But so far what we've discussed, we really like character grade hickory. And we also like the live sawn white oak that we recently have been implementing. I think this is live sawn behind us here.
Yeah, we've got the character grade live sawn behind us here on the walls. Two great choices. I know my lifestyle, and not that it's the right approach, but I've said it 1,000 times. I built this house to live in it, not to be a show place.
Oh yeah.
And
well, that's one of the arguments that I've had with my brothers Zach and Ben. You know, I was talking to them about different door and floor combinations that I was thinking of, and they tell me, oh, you need to do painted trim, you need to do painted trim. I said, my husband's a farmer. There will be fingerprints all over that. No, we can't do painted. No white trim, not for me.
no, that's
nothing
good.
wrong with white trim, but
for
us, it's not going to work.
Well, I don't know. I've over the years, I've been in some beautiful old farmhouses, and yeah, they get dingered up and beat up a little bit, but I did see a lot of painted trim in some old craftsman farmhouses too.
I don't know.
Well, when hubby's around, send him down to my office and we'll have a little conversation.
We'll fingerprint some stuff up, huh?
But seriously, we'll be here for you for all of the decision making and you know, well, we saw this here, we saw that there, and we'll be here for you through the course of your construction. And like I said, keep it fun. Keep it fun, keep it light. So in regards to that, there's been a lot of milestones here at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods since 1960 to today, 60 plus years of manufacturing fine quality hardwood products and a lot of memorable moments. I have dozens of memories. Do you have a memory that goes above the rest of them?
Oh, geez. This is a tough question, I think, here. I definitely have enjoyed, and we haven't been able to do it the past 2 years, but our red, white, and trues. I love, the community and seeing our customers face to face, and I really have missed that the past couple years, and hopefully we can get back to it.
That's a great answer, and for folks in the audience that don't know, typically the last weekend in September, we host an on-site, it's a carnival, overblown customer appreciation kind of day. And from our 100+ employees, I normally get about 70 volunteers to work that day. And it's a full day. And I enjoy seeing that because our employees,
They
enjoy it, and they're proud of what we do here. And they are hosts, they're ambassadors that day. So you're right, the last couple of years we've had to do an off-site event, a virtual type of thing. But it won't be long, we'll be getting back to that. And yes, you are absolutely right. That is every year for the past 10 years has been very memorable, very memorable. It's been 2 or 3 years ago now with the interruption that we've experienced, the dedication of the flag post out front. With our relationship with the local VFWs and that we always have our friends from Second Harvest Food Bank out, and that's a huge thing. And there's a lot of good things happen that day, and it's easy to get fired up about.
It is, yeah, definitely.
So You thought that question was tough. This tough. This question is tougher yet. And you might pop an answer off, and I'll say, okay, that's good with me. Where do you see the third generation pushing this company forward in the future?
So I definitely think the third generation brings a set of skills and experiences to the table that's going to take us to the next level. And I can't specifically say where that's going to be yet. I don't know, still is to be determined on the horizon, but I definitely think that we have some very good assets coming up through, and we will be fine in taking this to the next level with the guidance of Uncle Hatch, who's first generation, and all of the second generation along the way.
And I've had an unfair advantage in having witnessed not necessarily the transfer of power, but the transfer of responsibilities from the first generation to the second generation. And now, said respectfully to you kids, the third generation, right? And like the first generation did for the second generation, they turned over a healthy business.
Oh yeah.
The second generation is working very hard to give you kids that same privilege.
Oh yeah.
And when it is bestowed upon you, pay attention to it, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, and I definitely think the second generation is going to be along for the ride for quite a while here, and we have a lot to learn as the third generation.
And you nailed it. There's a lot to learn and be accepting of learning, and because they have a lot of life's lessons.
They do.
So, Sarah, again, welcome back home.
Thank you.
Great to have you. And folks, pay attention to us on our social platforms. And here in the near future, maybe we'll go visit Sarah up in her office and something like that. But thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Sarah, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at bairdbrothers.com. Until next time. Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. Hey, welcome everybody. Steve Stack, Studio 3B, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. And we're gonna talk a little product specific today, and I brought in the expert, Mr. Terry Baird. Welcome, Terry.
Thanks.
Oh, come on now. I know you've been broke in on this a little bit. You did some stuff with our friend from Oak Hill Millworks on some of the when you deep dove into the species and did some species descriptions and usages and availability, this, that, and the other thing. We're going to do the same thing. And this is the beauty of this. We're going to start talking. And you being the lumberman and me being with you guys, being around for so long, it's just going to be sitting up at your desk and having a conversation. But what we want to get into today, among some of our other products, is not necessarily a newer product. We've been making it into some paneling, like behind us here, but it's the live sawn character grade white oak.
Yeah, I mean, we're not the first ones to do it. It's been around, there's been other guys doing it, but the customers asking for it, it's a very nice product. So we You try to respond to what the customers are looking for.
In our industry, we've seen it, time and time again. It follows what the interior designers and decorators and the builders and the cabinet makers kind of offer. And as of late, going back 5 years ago, the white oak started getting hot because it was a nice neutral color, and then it expanded into some character grade, and then all of a sudden it's gone into this live sawn, and it's a different product because of the way it's produced off the sawmill.
Yeah, it's kind of a hybrid that you're getting a little bit of everything in one product. Depending on where it comes off of the can as they're sawing it, you'll have the flat sawn, typical cathedral looking grain. And as you start slicing down through the cant, the grain configuration changes. So now you're getting in kind of a rifty cathedral, and as you come down further, you're into a quarter sawn with a little bit of cathedral. And in some of those boards, once you hit the center with the pith, you have to take that out because it'll split. And then you might have some narrower pieces that are going to be quartered rifty, and as you come down through it, it's just a reverse. So you're getting everything.
So we're envisioning this round log with the round growth rings on it, and if we have this round object, the log, and we start at the top, in elementary terms, you start sawing it, and you don't change the orientation of the log while it's being sawn, correct?
Correct. I mean, what they're doing with the log is they're squaring it up 4 sides to start with. And you might pull some better grade because your best grade's on the outside of the log typically. So they'll pull their lumber off, we'll call it. Then once they get it squared up, and mills will saw it to a fixed size, like a 9-inch cant, 12-inch, 6-inch. Then they'll just saw right down through it, like you said, Steve, from top to bottom.
So in effect, you could, we offer right now we offer product in the live sawn white oak. Mm-hmm. We offer product up to 7-inch.
Yes.
But in that 7-inch board, it's very possible to have rift or quartered out on the edges, yep, and a plain flat sawn, yes, cathedral material in the center of that board.
Yeah, and as we're getting into it more, there's the option to go wider if you'd like to get more of a look.
Same holds true for some of the narrower, because we offer the live sawn flooring product in a 3-inch to a 7-inch width right now, everything in between 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. But you could run into some 5 and 6-inch stuff that it might be all flat sawn.
Yes.
And you might run into some that could be majority quartered or rift.
Yeah. When you're into those small, like the larger of the smaller widths, if that makes sense.
Right.
To where like a 6-inch or a 5-inch, theoretically, it's not going to have the same look as a 3 or a 4, and there again, it's not going to look like the 7-inch, because a lot of those wider boards to get that 3 and 4-inch are getting busted in half.
Correct. In the ripping and milling operation, it's getting broke down to a smaller width.
Yeah, because technically a live sawn 3-inch piece is a piece of flat sawn 2 and 3 common white oak.
Right, for all intent and purposes. But that's the beauty of this product, is it gives you, in effect, 3 different flavors.
Yes, within that same
of saw
species.
cut, right, yes, within that species.
Yeah, and the grade too, it's not all rustic. It's more rustic than clear is how I'd describe it.
Correct.
You can get some better pieces, but for the most part, it's going to have a good character to it. And, as we always try to do with our character, it's not necessarily the size of the defect, it's the soundness of it, and if you can see through it.
Yeah, you want it to be sound material.
Yeah.
And this whole thing, like I mentioned, it's played out over the last 5-6 years with the demand on select white oak, on quartered or rift white oak, and every time you come through the offices, I hear you telling the guys, can't you guys sell anything other than white oak? And what it's done, and it's starting to self-level again a little bit, but what it's done over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, it drove that price of white oak up.
Yeah.
Because it was high in demand. And we were talking off camera. Some of the other things that you don't even think about, products that require white oak.
Yeah, the stave market's kind of turned the white oak market up on its side.
So when you're talking staves for wood barrels, for the wine and whiskey industry, right?
Yeah.
And you can only imagine the volume of product that goes into that industry.
Yeah, the volume's good, but the price they can pay for it
Yeah.
is not apples to apples in our world.
Right.
They can pay so much more for what they want that you're going to go to where the highest buck is.
It has a lot of qualities, and one of the qualities is the natural coloration. It's referred to as white oak. It has maybe a little bit of a silver gray cast to it at times, versus its cousin, the red oak, which has that reddish pinky undertone to it.
Yeah, and white oak in general speaking is a very much more consistent and uniform in color than red oak.
You don't have that wide, broad variation, right?
Yeah.
But again, like we've talked in the past, in all the demand on the white oak, it made red oak a very valuable purchase.
Oh yeah, for the bang for the buck and a coat of stain, and 95% of the people aren't going to tell if it's red or white.
The architects had some influence along with the interior designers. The trend that we've seen over the last couple, 2, 3 years, 4 years even, has been the modern farmhouse. And that kind of lends itself to a lighter coloration throughout the project. Your light grays on the walls, your painted woodwork, and a lighter colored floor. And in that case, the white oak, or in our species today, the live sawn white oak, it fit the bill.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it looks, I think, a really nice unfinished. And if you're looking for the rustic character product, the white oak is by far a better product than a red oak. The defects lends itself to be smaller, tighter.
And the thing about it, like you mentioned, we're getting a pretty good mix as far as character and some select grade material in this live sawn product. Mm-hmm. You're getting you can folks look behind us and you'll see some 5-6 foot boards that are more or less clear, select material. Yeah. Versus some of the character, some of Mother Nature's handiwork that's left in a lot of them. Yeah, and for the most part, when we're cutting it up out in the rough mill, I'm trying to leave full product go into it, where I'm not high-ending the clears out of it. I'm trying to give the customer the full product so you get the variety of everything. You're getting a nice mix. Yeah. You're not being overwhelmed with the character. You still got some clear mixed in there, break it up a little bit. Yeah, and it depends on the sawmill that I'm buying off of, the logs they're dealing with. It's random. I'm not saying it's always going to be a 80-20 split or anything like that, but it can be some nice wood in it and character. The neat thing, and I just want to make the folks aware at home, this live sawn product, it doesn't matter whether it's the live sawn white oak, or whether it's select red oak, or select maple, or black walnut. It's going through all the same operations as the rest of our flooring line. Mm-hmm. Take us through that. So, predominantly buying in lumber green from sawmills. I'll call them local, within 150, 200 miles. We're buying the lumber out of PA, Ohio, West Virginia. And so I like to dry all of our own lumber, so we've got
total control over it. And I always say there's a difference between drying lumber to sell and drying lumber to use in your own facility, in which we're using at our own facility. So take extra time and care drying it to make sure that it's right. Then we run it through our rough mill. You know, we're putting it into a fixed strip, cross-cutting it, pulling out the large defects. In the rustic products, in the clear, of course, clear is clear. So we're cross-cutting it, sorting it by width and length, coming out the back end. And then depending on what process is next with the flooring, then it goes to our flooring molder, which will get molded, then end matched. And then if it's pre-finished, then it goes to our pre-finishing line. If not, it's strapped up and ready for shipment right there.
The reason I asked that, and I wanted to impress upon the folks watching that just because it's a rustic caliber product, the quality of the manufacturing process is identical to a clear select grade product. And that is one of the things that differentiates Baird Brothers Floor from a lot of strip floor manufacturers.
Yeah, the big strip floor guys run fast. The run fast, you run loose.
Right.
We don't run fast. We run at a good pace, but we can run tight and still hold our production where it needs to be at. We're always going for tolerance over production.
See, and you, boy, you threw that out there for me. I've always compared our flooring manufacturing to our moldings. Mm-hmm. Moldings have always been held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, we've always told people that. We're a molding manufacturer that produces a high quality hardwood flooring product.
Yeah, the tolerance is that we, you know, the thickness, you know, the width tolerances we're holding to is probably plus or minus 2 or 3 thou.
Yeah.
Reference point between the tongue and the groove, we try to be within that same 2-3 thou. You know, wood's wood. It'll change as the humidity changes after we machine it. With taking that into consideration, if you leave it sit out in the humid area, the ends are going to swell.
And it's so important. A lot of things come into play with environmental conditions. The way you dry the lumber, right? That's point, I mean, right off the get-go. But for folks that have never had to fight a floor to install it, if the tongue and groove is too tight and we say we have to beat the stuff together. You shouldn't have to beat it together.
No, it should fit snug.
Right, a snap.
Yeah, and depending on, you know, not every piece lays perfectly flat. The ones that are bowed a little bit are going to go together harder, but still, it's, you know, a machine fit.
Yeah, you know, even side to side, from the index points on the groove side versus the index side.
Yeah, and that's what we call a reference point.
Right, and I mean, if those are off a little bit, that'll give an installer nightmares.
Yeah, and you know, and you hear people having problems with big box stuff, store product, that the widths vary too much, to where they got to lay out pieces.
Right, and when you're doing a 24-foot run down a room, and say we're using 6-inch material, and you have one board that your next piece down, and it's a 16th under.
Yeah.
So now on that butt joint, there's a 16th variation. Mm-hmm. So when you come down with that next strip that you're running, now you overlap that joint and now there's a gap.
Yeah.
And the rest of the floor don't have gaps.
Yeah, and that goes back to that big difference, what I always call running fast and loose or slower and tight.
And you know, we haven't necessarily shied away from it, but the wider plank. You know, our standard family of hardwood floorings has always been 2 1/4 industry standard strip floor, and then we've always offered 3, 4, and 5 inch. Mm-hmm. And we have ran wider widths in the past. With this live sawn white oak, we're offering it 3 to 7, and like you mentioned, possibly
The
go
option's
past
there to go
that.
wider.
So it makes you think, and I've had the free education over the years out on job sites. Once you get past that 5-inch, a lot of installers get a little bit nervous about movement and cupping. So they take an extra insurance policy out, and I myself, I think it's a good one,
I agree.
that they'll introduce a lot of time a urethane-based membrane, very much like tile set, and they'll put that down so you have the benefit of a built-in moisture barrier. You have an adhesive across the full bottom width of that board, and then you still have the mechanical nail fastener.
Yes.
And you don't, not saying you can't have problems with it, but when done right and the house environment is controlled, humidification, dehumidification, you don't have problems with it.
No, I don't see. If your subfloor is tough enough to hold the wood down, to where if you put it down on cruddy plywood, the plywood will fail. You know, the glue won't.
Yeah.
So starting with that foundation of gluing it down and nailing it, wouldn't have a qualm in the world about putting down a wider plank.
You know, and the same holds true for the narrower widths of the 3, 4, and 5 like we typically offer. In just a nail down application with a vapor barrier, we like and recommend the Aqua Bar product, which is a paper and asphalt membrane for the vapor barrier and the workability of a paper product. But if you put a 3, 4, 5 down, follow the correct nailing pattern, and if you do not control the environment inside of that home, any one of those, 3, 4, or 5, can give you heartache too.
Yeah, wood really only moves because its moisture content has changed, which the moisture content changes because the humidity has changed. So it's absolutely critical to try to maintain as uniform humidity level in your home as you can. Or you go with it the understandings that summertime it might cup a little bit, winter times it'll pull flat and you might pull a gap.
Right, and that's, you know, I've always used the example of the pendulum, and the inside of our homes being the range of that pendulum, and from winter to summer and winter to summer. And it's our job as homeowners with hardwood floors to minimize that pendulum swing inside our home. That way the floor isn't going through a shock. We've witnessed it. We've seen floors, we reference it as push, when it picks up moisture. Mm-hmm. So again, we were talking a little bit before we came on camera. Take a room that's 20 foot wide. We're laying 6-inch floor. So we've got 40 boards going in that room to cover that 20 foot. If each one of those boards grows a 32nd of an inch, 40 over 32 is over an inch growth across the body of that floor. And I liked your comment, it doesn't matter whether it's a 3 or 4 inch board or whether it's a 7-inch board. That's the capability of movement.
Yeah, for the most part, if you let it swell and grow.
Right. So then you start seeing some camel humps, you see some push out to the side barrier walls, and it stops, and then you really can have some cupping or humping in the floor. And vice versa. November rolls around. Now you've had a little too much growth in the summer. Fall comes through. November, heat sources kick on. Now the opposite's happening. We're drying that lumber back down.
Yeah, you'll start pulling gaps in your floor.
And you start seeing that gapping, right?
Yeah.
So it's of the utmost importance for, like anything we own, whether it's a vehicle or the hardwood floor in our homes or the cupboard doors in our kitchens, we have to maintain it.
Yeah, trying to keep a steady humidity level, and there's times you can only do so much, but you try to do the best you can with the dehumidifiers and the air conditioning in summer, humidification in the winter.
Because we've introduced, and now we're really starting to promote this Liveson white oak, character grade white oak flooring, because it's a beautiful product.
Oh yeah,
It's a gorgeous product. It can be used in anything from cabin style homes to, like I said, the modern farm. We finished that one project over on the East Coast with this old house, and they used, at that time, it was Liveson. That was one of our first Liveson projects, because we did those long 1x12s for the overhead beams, the cantilever beams.
yeah.
And because we are who we are at Baird Brothers over here in Canfield, Ohio, it'll be special order and it will have special pricing, but some of the accessory products would be available also.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, it's, it can be made.
Right? I mean, that's kind of what we've always hung our hat on.
Yeah, I mean, width is going to come if you come to us and you want 16-foot 1x12s.
Right.
They're going to be glued.
Right. And actually, I believe those boards were up there in New England. But, we've, in fact, the photography is on our website at bairdbrothers.com in our This Old House section, living on the homepage, the landing page. That project turned out gorgeous.
Yeah.
And again, that was, that house had a lot of glass, lighter shades, and they wanted that light floor, light accent woodworking, and it was the ticket. So there's a lot of possibilities with the Liveson. The flooring is a great place to start in my eyes.
Yeah, because then there's, like I said, you get into the narrower stuff. Say like if you all of a sudden decide you want trim out of it, it's going to look the same as darn near a rustic white oak product.
Right.
So taking that in consideration too.
Take a beautiful white oak tree, and you've got that nice butt log, and a lot of times that might qualify for veneer logs, right? And then you might take another 8-footer off of it, and you're getting close. It might be a beautiful grade log, but then you start coming into the canopy limbs. Then is when we start to see this product.
Yeah, to a certain extent. You watch with the big stuff. I mean, what you hear a lot of guys talking is around a 14, 16-inch log.
That's what they're sawing for.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
A low grade log that might go for blocking or pallet lumber.
Right.
Because it's, you're taking a product that would go, say, to make pallets or blocking, timbers and that. Now you're turning it into a paneling product that.
And as a layman, not a sawyer, this sawing process of live sawing, it has to, in my eyes, does your yield go up on the log?
Oh yeah. For the most part, it does. I mean, and then it depends. You might have that center board that has a pith all through it, but like I said, typically the pith, the center of the log, will blow up for honeycomb just because of what it is, and you rip that out, you're throwing that away. So It's a little bit there, but for the most part, it's got a good recovery on it.
Right.
You're getting your log squared up and slicing it all the way down.
So folks, there you have it. A little bit of information about the Liveson character grade white oak flooring product that we're offering. Visit us at bairdbrothers.com. Off the main menu bar, flooring, it'll take you to the group family flooring page, and you'll see the Liveson character grade white oak living there. And also through some of our gallery pages, you can see it listed there also. So Terry, thanks for popping in this afternoon. I
You
know
bet.
you're busy out there in the Rip Barn and everywhere else, and but appreciate you taking some time popping in.
Enjoyed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, till next time, Steve Stack, Terry Baird, American Hardwood Advisor, hang in there. For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at bairdbrothers.com. Until next time. Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. Hey everybody, Steve Stack, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, Canfield, Ohio. We are back at Studio 3B, and this is a continuation of a conversation I had with Miss Lori Baird, second generation, one of the second generation that they paid their tutelage under the first generation, and now they've got their third generation kids involved. And in our first sit down, Lori, we talked about the beginning, 1960, and we caught up to you coming back to the business after your registered nurse stint with the Cleveland Clinic back in the mid to late 90s, and my gosh, looking back at that, and I know you can, and I can. I can remember when we opened the new showroom.
I can too.
I mean,
That was a big day.
Right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and so that was in '89.
To go through that type of a tragedy and to build it to where it, developed into the showroom.
Catastrophic fire.
Yes.
Catastrophic fire.
Yes.
And
I didn't know which way we were going to go, how things were going to turn out, but
it was
stayed strong.
it didn't even have to be decided. The three brothers and the sister knew.
Yeah, they didn't even blink an eye. We're going to
No.
stay strong and stay together in this, and we're going to
I remember
through this.
the media being out there the next morning. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were here all night.
all right.
And the next morning, all of them were approached, and even second generation, your brother, I know, was approached. And, well, what are you folks going to do? Mm-hmm. What are you folks going to do?
There was no question.
It was unanimous.
Yeah, there was no question what was going to happen.
We pick up, we dust off, we get back in business as soon as we can. I think we were actually only shut down for 2 days.
We brought in the trailer. The trailer came in and it was set up.
Yep.
And business, we were continued business.
Strung
through the trim
new
shop.
phone
Yes,
lines in.
It just, yeah.
And because back then that was your lifeline was the
Use a
telephone.
phone, was the
lines.
telephone. Yeah, we didn't have there was no cell phones or, yeah.
So as things progressed, all of our duties changed, and you started finding yourself, and I have to chuckle because where I was going isn't going to it's not going to be where I wound up. You started receiving more responsibility from Aunt Helen.
Mm-hmm. Within the office, yes.
All of them did, but Helen always had an open ear for any of the employees.
Always. They did, yeah. And she always was there to listen and to help them through whatever maybe situation it might be, good or bad. She was always there to listen.
there was a number of people you could go to in the family. H, as we
As we
commonly
call it, right.
referred to her,
Right.
and her husband, Whitey.
Uncle Whitey. Loved Uncle Whitey, yeah.
You needed something,
They were there.
ask,
Ask,
right?
right, ask.
Whether it was an extra $20 to make the week, or whether it was a day off to spend time with
With your family or
something.
right, absolutely.
So we jump fast forward at 2022, and over the course of the last 10 years or so, you have grown into this position as our company has changed, as business operations have become more complicated. We didn't know what an HR department was.
No, we didn't. We didn't know what it was, and I can remember one day Scott and I, second generation, him and I were talking, and it kind of developed into we were growing, and we had more employees, and we have the 401k, and hiring process, insurance process, just everything kind of involved with HR, and we're like, this might be a good time to develop a department, the HR department, and so that's kind of how it developed just as we grew, and of course now we have 135 employees, so there is definitely a great need for that.
And we talk about HR and policies and employee handbooks. We never knew what an employee handbook was.
Right.
You were expected to be here at
Just
7:30,
right,
and you got to leave at 4:30 or 5, and you were going to do that 6 days a week.
Exactly, right, that's right.
But times have changed, and one thing that hasn't changed with the policies and procedures and the craziness of healthcare that you get to juggle as part of your duties today, and man, you have support from within the family, but you're on point.
Yes, I'm like when it comes to that, I'm like I'm the go-to.
Right.
I'm the go-to person for all of that.
And it's not unusual to the guys knock off in the plant at 4 o'clock. It's not unusual to walk out of my office onto the balcony and walk past your office and have 3 guys standing at your doorway,
Right.
with questions, concerns, whatever,
Right.
and or throughout the course of the day.
And that's the one thing that I love about my job now, is to be here for the employees when they have questions about maybe insurance or their days off, or whatever it might be. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help them, and I think that's something that I enjoy doing, because you need, especially now where we've grown and where the business has taken us, and with 135 employees, it's important to have someone who can kind of help with those questions and answers and be there for them.
It is, and I think back, and it's reflective of Aunt Helen and yourself, and for that matter, your dad and Howdy and Paul. We've got a great longevity.
We do. We have a great group of people. We are so fortunate. And I always say this, I never like to use the term employees, because I don't feel that, that it's their employees. To me and to the family, I feel like it's one big family. And that's the thing about family business that I love so much, is working together as a team. It takes all of us every day to keep this going. So it's everyone's job is just as important as someone else's job. And I always say that, from the salesman getting the sale to the guys in the back end manufacturing and production, to the truck drivers as it's going out the door. Every piece of this is important, and everyone's job here within the company is important. It's one is no greater than another. It takes everyone to get that product through the door. So or out the door into someone's door, I should say.
Yes, and I'm thinking back within the workforce, within our coworkers. The Lannerman family comes to mind.
Yes.
The Cronin family comes to mind.
Yes. Ewings.
We've had a few Griezels
Ewings.
come through.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we probably have a half a dozen or more families
Drew Hards.
Drew
I mean,
Hards.
we could, yes, that have been longevity that have been with us, and we have we have dads and sons, and
and brothers,
cousins and brothers.
Yeah, you know, and that says a lot about the approach, and
that's where I think for us, we, as far as like having to recruit people, we've never really had to go out and do recruiting per se, because we have been so fortunate that a lot of that has been through, again, a family member, a friend, just word of mouth, telling another friend. So we've been very fortunate.
we have been. We've been blessed over the years, but in today's world, post-COVID, things changed.
They changed.
And it takes a lot of guys to produce the quality products that we manufacture here.
Yes.
Like you said, from the lumber coming in, how it's taken care of, through the dry kilns, out to Terry's rough mill out back, into the shop, right down to the guys in small packaging and LTL freight.
Every job is important.
Exactly. And you find yourself looking for folks now. We've never, like you mentioned, we've never had
To actively recruit or
to come out publicly and say, we need workers.
Right, never.
And we need workers at every capacity.
Mm-hmm. We need them on all levels.
Right? So that's different. But we're just not selling lumber in the Mahoning Valley anymore.
Nope, we're selling across the country.
All across the country, all 50 states and Canada, and every once in a while we'll get a dedicated freight guy. We'll ship it to New York Harbor, we'll ship it to Miami Harbor, and it goes beyond. I mean, we don't offer that service, but with a broker, people do that.
People do it, and we have done it, right?
And so things have changed. Things have really changed, and we just we have to impress upon people. This is a pretty nice place to work.
It is. I think, of course, I've been born and raised in it, but I think that it's really a pretty special place.
You know, and one of the things, and we're charged with it now.
Yeah.
With some of the younger people coming in, we have to impress upon them how this place was built.
Absolutely, because that's the importance to me of it, was how first generations morals and values and how they built the business and what it was built on. And it was built on hard work and relationships, building relationships. And I think that's part of why we've had such longevity too with customers, not just customers, but employees that have been with us for a long time. It's building those relationships. And I think that's what sets us apart from other companies and other businesses. I think we have a lot here to offer.
A few years back, and this might be for general public information, but for anybody entertaining coming to work at Baird Brothers, we've got a little saying, right? It's over there on the wall. Baird team, right? Building an atmosphere of importance, reliability, and direction. Together, everyone achieves more.
Right.
And
We have to stay together.
we have to live that.
Yes, we do have to live it.
And that allows us to continue some growth. Your dad was a stickler, man. He was about growth, but he was about controlled growth.
Right.
And it's worked, to that point, to this point. And my gosh, what you and I have witnessed.
Over the years, yes.
And it's...
Talking about from, of course I wasn't around when they started in 1960, but from when I was a child to where we are today and the growth and the changes that have taken place. But the one thing, and I emphasize this too on our third generation kids coming in, is don't forget your roots. Don't forget where we started from and how we started. And I think those values will continue to help us grow through the years.
We still see it today, whether it's family or senior people. There's no job beneath you.
Absolutely not. One of the things that my cousin Tim tells the kids, don't ask anyone to do a job that you wouldn't do yourself.
Right.
And I have encouraged that in my kids and my nieces and nephews, and that jump in, work with the guys. You don't know what you're going to learn from them either. We have a lot of skill here, and with the longevity, jump in, show them you want to learn, be a part of it. And that's the one thing that I've always tried to encourage them to do, because that's how we were taught as from first generation, that they worked in it too, and they were involved, and they worked on the floor, and they worked alongside the guys, and so it's important.
Oh, I think think back again, and that's the way it's always been. Mm-hmm. That's the way it's always been, and you and I, it didn't matter whether you were pushing a broom or filing paperwork for Aunt Helen. Right?
No, right.
And a lot has changed. Things have definitely got more complicated, but with the right approach.
But I don't think, I guess with the right approach, like you said, I don't think that it has to be complicated with the right approach. I think that as long as we, and of course, business has, like you said, post-COVID, or I don't know if you can call it post-COVID, but coming through all of that, we learned a lot even coming through all of that. But I don't know as things have gotten a little more complicated and changed, I think as long as we all stay together and we stay strong and we're working towards the same goals, which we all are, and we keep communicating, I don't know how complicated it has to be.
As much as we talk about change and growth, some things haven't changed.
No.
And I cannot think of a year since I've been around here that there has not been reinvestment back into the company. Many different ways.
Yeah.
Whether it be technology, mm-hmm. phone systems, computer systems, website, marketing, and your father, every year religiously, he traveled to the International Woodworkers Fair.
Every 2 years.
Yep.
It was a big, and I remember as a kid when I got to be old enough, because they had an age limit on it back then. So you couldn't go until you hit the age, but I can remember every 2 years, and my dad made it a point. Who wants to go? Like, this is what we're gonna do. And it was always kind of a special trip for all of us to go, because a lot of us family members went. And it was a great time to see, like, just to be together as a family too, to travel down there, but to see the technology and what were you gonna come back with, and what maybe equipment were we going to purchase and what changes we were going to make. And, you know, some of the family members just went down to that show.
That's
and they
where I was going.
And they came back with, you know, we had some second and some third generation that went with them. And I couldn't, you know, my cousin Terry walked in the office and said, well, we're going to take some of the youngins with us, you know, this year. And so they came back, and they came back with some, you know, saw some new technology and some new ideas. So yes, it's always changing, always changing.
And you just hit on the point that it was second and third generation made the trip this year down to Atlanta for the IWF, and now we're the ones that are trying to make the impressions and give guidance, or don't stick your hand in there, it's going to get pinched, and leave them do it just because.
Right.
But you know, I've had the I don't even want to call it a privilege. I've had the fun of traveling with some of the third generation, and it's nice to see their eyes open.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they have a lot of energy, and they have a lot of ideas, and it's really great to see. And they are all working. They're all working in it, and they're all working alongside, learning it, growing in it. It's really great.
As far as the multi-generational, the second generation, and especially the third generation, I like to think of it, to keep my psyche right. We need to impress upon them and employees its opportunity. Mm-hmm. And whether you're a new hire coming in here, you might have came from another woodworking shop. You might have came from a different career. Mm-hmm. But knowing that sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. And you know, you come in, your father used to say, Hood, I'd ask your dad, or your dad would ask me, conversation would start, your dad asking me, what do you see out there, Hood? I said, I don't know, Dick. I said, things are slowing down a little bit. He said, don't worry about it. Get up in the morning, put your boots on, and let's go make something good happen.
Right, exactly. Always a positive.
Right?
Right. Always a positive outlook on, we're going to move forward and we're going to keep going. Yeah. So,
me having a good idea of who Lori Baird is, this is an unfair question.
Oh boy.
Oh, we have so many things.
You said this is an unfair question.
No, we have so many things. When the dry kilns were added on to, and when the trim building was built, and then the pre-finishing facility and pre-hanging doors that we never did before, and there's milestones all along the way. The new showroom opening up. It's a loaded question, but I got to ask it. What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? I'm most proud of, as I said to you, I don't like to use the term employees, but I'm most proud of like who we are and who we continue to be. Our employees are amazing. They always, every day, there's something new, but I'm most proud of the team that we have built over the years and the people that have been here and been with us all these years, whether they're coming out, whether they're new here starting, maybe they've been here, a few months, or whether they've been here for 40 years. I'm really most proud of our team and our family for staying together and staying strong in building this company. And we have so many bright things coming in the future, and seeing third generation coming in and what they're doing. I'm really proud of everyone. I really am, because it takes all of us. I say this every day. It takes all of us to make this work. And without everybody, you can't do it. So I'm most proud of the team.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Steve Stack, Lori Baird, our latest edition of AHA. Stay tuned. Follow us, Facebook, Instagram. and we got more good stuff coming at you. For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at bairdbrothers.com. Until next time. Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. Hello everybody, Steve Stack, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, Canfield, Ohio. Coming to you today again from Studio 3B, and I have the privilege of introducing another of the third generation Baird family to you today. Zach, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve.
Thanks for coming back to our little studio back here, and we're going to introduce you to the folks today.
Looking forward to it.
Zach, third generation, son of Matt Baird. You're joined here at the facility with sister Sarah and brother Benny, and man, we're glad to have you back home.
Well, I appreciate it, Steve. It's been good to be back. So
yeah, you, like your brother and sister, kind of followed the same course. You went off, got your education, did some apprenticeships, and landed yourself a gig with a major tire company, and spent a couple years, I think, and came back to Canfield and joined back up with the family business. Take us through that little journey that I just touched on.
Yes, sir. So I went to Youngstown State and majored in mechanical engineering. You know, through school, I was working here at the sawmill, doing a little bit of CNC work from time to time, just helping out. My brother Matt has a successful residential tree service, so in between classes, I'd go out and do estimates for him. So it's been amazing to see his business grow over the years. As I got further into my college career, I did a couple internships, one with Kohler Coating, and then finally with Goodyear, ended up doing a design engineering internship with them. So that ultimately led me to getting a full-time position with Goodyear, and spent about a year in Akron learning the ropes from some of the more senior engineers there before they sent me out to Kansas to work in the OTR tire plant to do some development work and try to improve some processes out there.
And I'm guessing you learned some stuff along the way.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. When you go in the engineering school, you learn a lot of things. Some you'll use after school, some that you won't. A lot that you wish you would forget. But the core thing you really learn how to do is problem solve, and you may not have the answer when the issues first come up, but finding a way to get it done.
Yeah, and all important stuff. And I'm going to lighten it up for just a minute. I was concerned for a little while we weren't going to get you back, because I know you're an avid outdoorsman, and you spent a lot of time in the woods out in Kansas, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, growing up, we always, hunted the farm ground and, private property around here. So I never really had the experience of going out and hunting something I've never seen before. So while I was out there, took full advantage of a number of public hunting opportunities in Kansas, around Topeka and Lawrence. So got to experience that a little bit and had a little bit of success. We ended up getting an archery buck, so that was a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah, you're there, right? Might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, and through that, the COVID shut down, so it was an opportune time to spend some time in the woods.
Yeah, for sure. So we got you back to Canfield, and thankfully so. And now some of those experiences you had with Goodyear, I've already witnessed it. You're implementing different processes, different philosophies back here at Baird's. Take the folks through that.
Yeah, so I mean, at the core, it all starts with what's already in place. So, we've been here since 1960, and we do a lot of things really well. And, with that, we have a few areas we can improve on. So, it starts with the guys that are actually in the process, doing it day in and out. You go down, you work with those guys, the craftsmen that know the process the best, and spend a little bit of time with them and try to identify some areas to clean up communication, maybe different processes, how we do things. And at the end of the day, it's just to try to drive a better result for the customer, making sure we're still delivering that same level of quality that we've always prided ourselves on and keeping things running on time.
And it comes, well, you nailed it, the same quality. Okay, that's what your grandfather, your great uncles, that's what this place was founded on. That was its growth, was through quality. That has a lot to do with our customers' experience, and you're taking it a couple steps further. And as a company, as a group, as a team, we want to try and make that customer experience as easy and comfortable as it can be. The goal of quality, but to get them from needing product to that quality product, make that experience as easy as it can be and without the snag. So I know you are working on a major project with our computer systems.
Yep.
A new website, and you're integrating that from order entry to orders being dispersed to the right departments, getting in the right hands, and then through manufacturing over to shipping or pickup or Baird delivery, and you're integrating all of those things. So our manufacturing flow is smooth and transitions without any bumps, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where it all has to come back to, is you start with the customer. We deal with a lot of different customers, some being contractors, some other, more people doing DIY projects that all have a different level of experience and understanding of the product. So with the material you guys are producing to help educate the customers and make sure that the order entry process on the front end goes as smooth as possible, whether it be on our online e-commerce system, which is one of the more well thought out e-commerce system in our industry. You don't see the level of options and customization via our competitors that we currently have online. So just working to tie in that experience with our back-end systems to make sure that communication is flawless so we can get the product out with the same level of quality and on time.
Yeah, and you touched on it. Whether you're placing an order online or whether you need assistance, you call the toll-free number and speak to one of our phone reps, or you shoot out a question to info@Baird Brothers, and that's distributed to a salesperson that is strong in that suit in relationship to the question. And so we have the communication side, and then when an order is placed and generated, that's when a lot of the stuff that you are in the process of implementing kicks in, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and we have our standard practices that we've been doing to make sure that we effectively communicate with manufacturing, purchasing, and fulfillment, that have been developed through the years. So, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel with it, but at the same point, we take what we do really well and we continue to build on that. And what we try to remind ourselves, because when you look at the whole picture, it can be a little overwhelming, is just get 1% better every day, whether it's in manufacturing, purchasing, fulfillment. And you look up a couple years down the road and we're a lot farther ahead than we were then. So just making sure we're constantly trying to improve those processes.
Exactly, and I'll harp on it again. At the end of the day, we want it to be a good experience, and we want to supply that quality hardwood product to our customers' doorsteps flawlessly. And people need to know, as hard as we try, every member on this team, from the guys at the front counter, guys upstairs on phones, the family, guys in the back in the rip shed, that's our goal at the end of the day, is to produce a quality product. That's the way it's been, and that's the way it's going to continue to be, with the watchful eyes of the second generation and the third generation, yourself included. That's what we want. We want to supply a quality product to our customers, our end users, whether it be a contractor, a DIY, or a maker. And you know, we're proud of that. And again, some of the things that you're implementing make us a better manufacturer.
Yeah, no doubt about that. You know, and it all comes back to having the right technology in piece to just help enable the processes on the back end. Because, you know, without the people and processes coming together with that technology, it's effectively just a piece of hardware sitting there. So
Yeah.
making sure our people understand the process, and we're just trying to build off of what they've done all these years. So not trying to change anything dramatically, just enhance the process from what it is right now.
You know, technology, your grandfather, he was great at this. He had the mindset, and everybody in the shop knew it back in the day. If you needed a piece of equipment to make the job easier, faster, and produce a higher quality product, it showed up.
Yep.
And you're taking the technological side of that, and you know the equipment we have in the different buildings, from our rip barn, you know, our blue donut, the MRI for wood, to the optimizing cutoff saws and the computer communication between those, and then up to the shop and our CNC and to our grinding room. We've seen a lot of changes, and I've experienced them. One of the neat things that we do right now, and some of our customers may not know it, we have our stock molding profiles, right?
Yep.
Numbered in the hundreds, and we have samples available of those products, physical samples. So we're challenged with the 3,000 or so, what we call SPLs, or special profiles, and recently we've added another piece of equipment up in our IT office, and that's that 3D printer. What do we do with that?
Yeah, so depending on what you're looking for, you know, we have our catalog of thousands of existing SPL molding stuff customers in the past have ordered that we currently don't stock. So, you know, if you're online browsing or looking through those profiles and you see something that catches your eye, but you need a physical sample to confirm, you just shoot us an email over and we'll go ahead and get you that product 3D printed and mailed out to you. And then in the case, you know, you have something you're trying to design, or you got a unique use case, you want a new molding, you go ahead, we'll work with our engineering team, we'll get a drawing produced for you, generate that 3D printed model that you can get in your house, take a look at it, make sure it's what you're looking for. And once that process is fleshed out and all the way through, should you want to proceed with ordering it, we got our CNC here to cut the custom knives and get it ran for you.
And that's huge. That's huge. If you're an interior designer, an architect, and or a contractor, you know, like a restoration, specializing in restoration, and you need that, you know, that custom molding, you go to bairdbrothers.com, off our homepage, left-hand menu column, click on custom moldings, and it takes you to our library of SPL profiles, whether it be casing, baseboard, miscellaneous molds. And then to your point, just like our doors, our interior doors, architectural grade style and rail doors, and the same goes for the moldings, as we always say about our doors. You sketch it on a napkin, send it over to us, and to your point, it lands at engineering and the process starts.
Yeah, and with that, if you are doing a restoration project where you have an existing profile in hand, you know, you cut us a sliver of that, send it in, we'll get it scanned and reproduce the engineering drawing, and we can manufacture off that also.
Yeah, I come from the day where we sketched it, put dimension to it, and it went to the grinding room, right? And now you sketch it, put dimension to it, run it through engineering, get a precise drawing.
Yep.
Okay, I like the look, but am I going to like the look in real life? Produce a 3D sample, send it out to the homeowner, the architect, the interior designer, the builder, and now they have that physical piece of molding, or what is represented as a molding, and they say, yes, that's what I wanted. And then we start the manufacturing process.
Yes, sir.
You were away for a few years, and you came back to Canfield, Ohio, back home, and you have a challenge every day. You work with your father, Matt, your aunt, Lori, your sister, Sarah, and our boy, Benny, your brother.
Yep.
And family is a great thing, but it can get a little bit old.
Yeah, we certainly butt our heads at times, but we always find a way through it. There's no doubt about that.
Right? We've got, and not to not mention Hatch's boys, and then Howdy's boys, and then the third, Tyler in the third generation coming from Howard's branch of the family, and it's a very unique situation in that we still have old school.
Yep.
With Hatch at the helm, and then each one of the second generation in their specialty niche, and now you guys, and no disrespect, you kids coming into it, and with your bellies on fire and your ideas and implementing them, and the common goal of keeping this business strong and viable, and producing a very high grade quality hardwood product. It can be challenging.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the coolest things I'd say about my experience since I've come back is, that, like you said, we're third generation, you got all these ideas bouncing around your head, you're looking to implement them. The second generation gives us a very high level of autonomy to go pursue these ideas and kind of flesh them out and see how they'll work in the real world, and some of the ideas will get used, some won't. But that's where we have to come to you guys, and you've been around here quite a while too, so I always look when I come up with something like that, or my brother and I are talking about something, it may be something you guys have already ran down that track, or there's something that would cause us an issue with that idea. So you guys giving us the autonomy to pursue these things, but also providing guidance and making sure we don't run off the tracks too far.
And that's something very special here, and it's been like this forever. There isn't a closed door in our office complex, whether it be an employee, a customer. You want to talk to yourself, myself, Scotty, your father Matt, Tim, Terry. Their name's on it.
Yep.
Their name's on it, and they want to talk to you also, And to your point of going down to your dad's office or Scotty's office or Terry's office, Timmy, you want to bounce an idea off of them, they're going to listen to you.
Yep.
They're going to listen to you, and they're going to tell you, okay, well, let's shelf it for a while, or dig into it a little deeper. And that's the dynamics that makes this place special. Really does. Really makes this place special. You touched on it a few minutes ago. At one time, we went from standing timber to finished product. And at some point, the wood screw, as we refer to it, we pulled them back in, shut down the logging operation, and subsequently the sawmill operation, to where we buy our different grade lumbers in now to fulfill our needs. But between two of your other brothers, Nate and Matt Jr., both having their own businesses. With Nate, you're out in the woods helping him skid lumber, logs. You mentioned working with Matt Jr., on his professional tree service, residential tree service. And so you still have that appreciation from standing timber to finished product.
Yeah, and it's been really cool to see Nate kind of take us back to that a little bit. I mean, this kid, he lives, eats, and breathes it every day. He loves it. When he was 18 years old, he was in a pickup truck going down to Mississippi to look at his first skidder. So ever since he was 18 years old, that's what he knew he wanted to do, and he loves it there. And Benny and I will try to get out there every once in a while on a weekend or something and skid some logs with him and get an appreciation for what he does out there. But it's kind of cool to see it come full circle back to how, you know, Baird Brothers was originally started too.
Right. That's how your grandfather and your great uncles, that's how they started. Started in the woods and little handset sawmill down the road behind your great grandparents' farmhouse down there, and you're right. Nate's going right back to the roots.
Yes, sir.
You know, that's cool. That's cool because a lot of us experienced that, and now that you're experiencing that, again, that's that completed circle of, okay, this is where it comes from, and this is how we take care of it when we receive it now, and this is how we pass it on to our appreciated customers.
Yep.
So you grew up here. You grew up at this facility, whether you wanted to or not. and looking back, what are some of the levels that we've attained, changes that you've witnessed that keep coming back in your head?
As far as manufacturing go, I'd say one of the most efficient processes we have is probably our rough mill in the back. You know, when you're in there and they're running 1 and 2 common poplar for finger joint full go, it's really running at quite an alarming pace. You got the full strip clear material going down to the end of the line, being pulled out and separated by width, and then 15 kickers knocking all the miscellaneous wisps of finger jointed product knocked off into bins. So it's been pretty incredible. That was all done about 2010, 2009. They overhauled the rip line, if I'm not mistaken.
And it's getting ready to go through another renovation.
Yep, we're in the process of hopefully getting some new machinery in and getting it back up to date. So certainly looking forward to that over the next year here.
And that goes, not to interrupt you, and we'll come back to that, but that goes back to, it's referred to as the optimizing line.
Yep.
Right? So we're trying to optimize the yield of the lumber that we're presented with. And that falls right back in play to sustainability.
Yep.
If we optimize and we're careful and we take ownership of that lumber and we treat it like we are the owners of that lumber, then it plays back to the sustainability side. The off rips, the crosscut drops. You know it, I know it. Goes into a conveyor, through a grinding process, into our silo, our sawdust silo, and it's used as a fuel source here at the shop, right? Or it is used, sold off for animal bedding.
Yep.
Or,
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things about the sawmill here is our sustainability through the utilization of the material we're getting in.
Right.
And we virtually have about 100% utilization. I don't know of any piece of that lumber product coming in that's going out the gate that hasn't been used.
Yeah, maybe if it's a windy day and some sawdust is blowing off the property, that's about the only way it's leaving here and not being utilized. Through technology and more advancements, we're moving ahead again. In some of the new equipment that we see showing up, whether it be the CNC and or Terry's rip barn out back with all the optimization there. One of the things that we still pride ourselves on, and it's our workforce, right? And they are the hands and eyes that handle this lumber. Whether it's molding coming off the back of a molder, or whether it's a couple of the guys putting stile unrail doors together, or whether it's the guys in packaging getting ready to ship it out, it's still the human eyes and the human hands that say, wait, this isn't right. Mm-hmm. or okay, this is the way it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah, it starts every day with the 130 men and women we got here working. From the, like you mentioned, as the lumber comes in, it's going through the stacker, through the drying process, through the rough mill, and eventually coming into the finished shop to be made into molding, doors, all our various products. But the craftsmen at every one of those steps, ensuring that we are putting out the quality of product that lives up to our expectation and our customers.
And I've had the experience, and I enjoy when I hear it. I've taken hundreds, if not thousands, of people through our facility over the years, and at the end of our little nickel tour, they all say the same thing. You can see these guys, they're happy in their job, and they like the way they're being treated, and that is reflected into the products that they crank out every day.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite parts too, is, we try to stick as much in our lane, making sure we're building our standard product, because that's, the bell cow that keeps the doors open. But, when we do get the occasional, extremely custom door, custom butcher block, just the excitement you see on the guys as we work our way through the engineering process, how we're going to manufacture that product, and then to see it come to fruition and the execution of it. It's fun to challenge yourself like that, and you see it, every time we have one of those sort of projects come across. The craftsmen take, full advantage of that opportunity to make that product be the best it can be, and it is unbelievable the stuff they pull off.
A few weeks ago, and we're talking about manufacturing flow and how technology affects that, and the paperwork trail, and the ability to track where manufacturing was at on a project. But we're still old school.
Yep.
We're still old school, and it just happened to me 3 weeks ago. We have a new adventure that we'll announce shortly, and we needed some product, and some of it was some custom tops. Well, to go through the process, it was going to take too long. So we still have the ability to walk down, talk to a department head or an area head, and say, okay guys, how can we make this happen? I did that at 9:30 in the morning. I had tops glued up that afternoon, worked up the next day, and 2 days later, it headed out on a truck out to a project.
Yep, it's something just like that.
And that goes back to our roots. What do we got to do to make it happen?
Exactly.
Right? So we can never lose sight of that.
No, and the ability to, there's always a unique case, so we try to develop these processes to be as seamless as possible. But, our customers are going to have, different circumstances that may require us to modify for a given project and do something outside of what the normal process. And at the end of the day, that's what we need to do. We need to shift and, to the best of our abilities, make sure we can be flexible and get it done.
Right. Be regimented, have procedures in place, but still be flexible to adapt to a situation.
Exactly.
That's cool. So, we make a lot of sawdust around here in a day's time, make a lot of different products. Two things. The product line that intrigues you or that you appreciate the most, or the wood species that you like the most.
I guess I have two fascinations there. The product line's definitely got to be our interior hardwood doors. I've certainly taken a liking to that process and the ability and the flexibility we have here to really build anything the customer wants, and trying to find a way to increase our output and make sure our lead times stay solid and keep them down below what the industry averages. You hear some of the other interior door manufacturers talking 10, 12, 15 weeks. They're out into July with orders. For us, we're trying to keep those lead times down, on something standard red oak poplar, down 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending on what they're getting done. And if you're getting into something real custom, keeping that under 5, 6 weeks, just to make sure that we're delivering product in a reasonable amount of time. And then as far as species go, white oak's definitely the one that rings the loudest for me right now. And certainly the live sawn cut is one that's grabbed my attention, like we have on the wall here. And hopefully in the near future here, we're going to have the full lineup, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7-inch live sawn white oak flooring listed online. So I'm excited to see how that new product rollout goes. It really is quite a beautiful product.
You and I were talking earlier. We're gonna spend some time together on Saturday and put some samples together of this new live sawn white oak product line, and have some photography done so we can get them loaded up onto the website and start letting people know about it, because it's Mother Nature at her finest, man.
Oh yeah, you just get the perfect amount of character, quarter sawn, rift grain, a little bit of plain sawn in there. It just gives you a lot of variety within one floor, but it's not quite as busy as a traditional character hickory floor. So it kind of tames it down a little bit, but you still have that rustic look that a lot of people are going after today.
Yeah, the background color is more uniform than, say, the hickory that goes from the whites into the dark browns, even some of the black.
Yeah, it can get a little busy depending on what you got there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's a good choice. I enjoy this backdrop here in our studio corner, and it's warm. It's like a lot of our hardwood products are. It's a very warming, almost calming, natural product. So you've been to how long have you been back?
Just a touch over a year. I think I got back here end of last January, February, somewhere in that range.
So up to that point, the stint that you did with us prior to, you, like I say, you've always been around, and then you put your wandering hat on and went away for a spell, and you came back home, and this isn't an easy question. It's almost an unfair question, in that concerning the business of 62 years, what are you most proud of about Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods?
I think when you take a step back and look at the big picture and how, the founders, Hatch, my grandpa Dick and Howard, kind of set the business up, and the second generations brought it along through the years, just the utilization of our resources that we have at our disposal. So, it starts out, I love the outdoors, so being out on the farms, hunting, but right alongside that farm is a couple natural gas wells that are plumbed right back to our powerhouse that we're producing all our own power here. And just the sustainability aspect of us being kind of off the grid, it really comes full circle when you sit back and look at how they set up the whole facility to run. It's pretty amazing to me, just the vision they had starting out, and just grew out of necessity through the years to get it to where it is today.
And you nailed it. You nailed it. But the vision and the forethought that those three guys had, and then through time, change is difficult sometimes, but they executed what they had in their heads, and here we are today in 2022, 62 years after it started, and you don't have to look very far to see things that they implemented.
No.
That we still follow as our map today. That's that you nailed it, buddy. You nailed that one. So now we have 6 second generation, we have 6 third generation, a lot of good ideas and this and that, and as the pecking order goes, how do you see the third generation when it's you guys' turn? How do you see this company going?
Well, I think we don't want to lose sight of where we came from. So making sure we're keeping the values of our founders, instilled in the daily practices, the people we're bringing on to our staff, making sure they understand what we're about and how we operate, and just looking for opportunities to build off of what they've set out for us. So implementing some new technology to hopefully improve the customer's experience and make it seamless from the time of order placement through delivery of the product, making sure there's no gaps there. So in the event that we do fall short in one of those areas, taking the opportunity to learn from that and improve that area. And I think we do a very nice job of that. When we do fall short, we do whatever we can to make it right with the customer. And at the end of the day, I like to think that the customers will measure you based off of that, not just off of the slight mistakes you do have every now and then.
There's a lot of different ways to say it, and I've had the fortune of traveling with your brother Ben quite a bit through some woodworking shows and some of the regional home and garden shows. And a few years ago, down in Pittsburgh, a gentleman approached our booth, and he and I started conversation, and he started asking about the background of the family and this and that, and your brother was attending the booth with me, and I said, as a matter of fact, I said, I have a third generation Baird here with me this weekend, and I called Benny over and introduced him to the gentleman, and you touched on it, and this guy nailed it. He pointed at your brother and he says, son, I'm going to tell you one thing. You've come into a great thing. Don't mess it up.
Exactly, and that's why you have to have the ability to look back and see what they did well and how we got here.
Right.
And make sure you don't lose sight of those values as you go forward.
Right. Well, hey, Zach, thanks for joining me today. We covered some ground.
Yes, sir.
We covered some ground. Wanted the people to get to know you a little more. You're gonna be a fixture around here, and we love your involvement. We love the fact that you're back home, and we look forward to. We just got back from a little trip that we're going to leak out here real quick, and I look to a few more, man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zach Baird, third generation, coming to you today. We're back here in Studio 3B. We're going to have a few more sessions back here, buddy. Stay tuned. Follow our socials, Instagram, Facebook, BairdBrothers.com, and we'll see you next time. For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at BairdBrothers.com. Until next time. Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. Hey, hello folks. Steve Stack, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, coming to you from Studio 3B, and I have a special guest this morning. I don't know how to describe him. We'll let the video and the soundtrack speak for itself with this guy, Ben Baird. Benny, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
And you're welcome for me getting you out of the shop for a little bit.
Yeah, for an hour or so. Take
Right?
a little break.
Right? Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Baird, third generation in the Baird clan. And right now, Benny's doing a great job for the company as finish shop manager.
Yes, sir.
Back in the main shop, the main milling shop. Gosh, how many guys you got in that department?
There's probably about 20, 25 of us, I would say. So.
You spend a lot of your day babysitting.
Yeah. No, we're pretty fortunate. We got a lot of good guys that work for us, and honestly, they make my job pretty easy. We put a schedule out, and the molder techs do a pretty good job of making sure the orders are going out in a timely fashion. And I'm just there to kind of oversee and do what I can do to help out.
So folks, I got to give you a little backstory on this kid. And again, he's a young man. He's not a kid, but all the third generation are kids to Stack. Benny, you've done a lot of different things.
Yep.
And you came out of high school. You went a couple different directions. Sold some vehicles for a while.
Yep.
A couple different dealerships. Helped your brother Matt out with his tree service business.
Yep.
And then you finally decided to come back to Quarry Road. You worked the sales counter for a while.
Yep.
And then I had the privilege of taking you across the country a couple years.
Yeah.
And doing some traveling with you to the old woodworking show. You've worked our regional shows, our regional home and garden shows, Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and we made a trip to the IBS International Builder Show out to Vegas, and
Yep.
last year down to Orlando, and at some point there, I think Aunt Lori came to me and said, "Hey, you're going to lose Benny." I said,
Yep.
"What do you mean I'm going to lose Benny?" And they said, "He's going back in the shop and run the main milling shop."
Yep.
And I thought, damn. And not only did we work well together, and we
Yeah.
still do,
Yeah.
but we, just like Studio 3B, we had fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
We had fun. And so off you go to the mill shop, and all of a sudden, life changed for you,
Yep.
right? So go back, and how many years has it been since you came back to Quarry Road?
So I came back when I was 20 or 21, so it's been about 5 or 6 years. Like you said, when I graduated high school, I went and helped out my brother Matt with his tree service. He does more of a residential type deal. And then from there, I actually went and helped a local landscape company, RGG. And then I went and ended up selling cars for 2 different dealerships, and ended up coming back here. And as you said, I came into sales when I first started. Got to do some traveling. I think, it was the first 4 months out of the year there for 2 or 3 years. We were pretty much gone 4 days out of the week until the end of April. And, that really taught me a lot, and I got to see a lot of cool things. And then around the time COVID happened, I think,
Yeah.
I was working for my cousin Terry back in the rough mill, and we had some guys that needed to take some time off due to COVID in the finish mill, and that's kind of when the opportunity opened up for me to step in, and just ended up clicking for me. I really enjoy the guys I work with. I got a very good group of gentlemen underneath of me, and we work very well together to make things happen here and do our best to take care of the customer and give them a high quality product.
And you do, and that's another department here at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods that we're fortunate in the employee base that we have overall, but specifically in this case in your finish shop.
Definitely. It's just like right now, I have to step away for an hour and a half, whatever it may be, to come do this, and there's no doubt in my mind that my gentlemen are taking care of business right now and doing what they're supposed to be doing, and things are still rolling. So I'm very fortunate in that aspect.
Okay, so take us through a typical day in the life of Benny Baird here at 7060 Quarry Road. You show up 6 o'clock, 6:30, whatever.
Yeah, so normally show up. All my guys arrive at 7:30. We work 7:30 to 4. I'll get here about 6 o'clock and go down and start getting the machines ready. That may require a setup, or it may require just greasing the machines up and getting them ready to run for the day. From there, my guys will show up, and it's business till 4 o'clock. We're rolling. We might be running SPLs, special orders, or we might be on stock runs. Right now, this week, we're doing mainly stock, so we sell a ton of finger-jointed prime poplar. It's a paint grade product. Probably one of our more popular trim products, I would say.
One of our leading product groups.
So yeah, some days I might be on a molder all day, catching or feeding, depending on if I have a guy call off or something like that. Some days I might be bouncing molder to molder, helping guys set up or do whatever I can to keep things moving and make things move in a quicker fashion.
But you work with a couple of different guys in the shop.
as far as scheduling machines,
Correct.
what product goes on machines.
Yeah.
You coordinate with Terry back
Yep.
in the optimizing line.
Yep.
As far as getting the rough blanks to your shop and taking them through.
Yeah, so there's a lot of moving pieces. Ed Berry, he's the gentleman that does all my scheduling for me on the machines, and what a heck of a job he does. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of moving pieces that go. You know, something might happen on Terry's end where he's down for a day or two, and next thing we know, we're getting material for an order that's supposed to ship the following day. Well, you know, here at Baird Brothers, we try to make sure that everything's going out on a timely fashion. We don't want to be holding anybody up. So, I mean, Ed's got to juggle things around. He might have to pull material off of a machine to get an order put in front to get it out on time. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the group of guys I got working with me is truly unbelievable. I mean, Brandon Drewhard, he's a couple years older than me, but when I first came into the finish shop, I owe Brandon, I got a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, and you haven't even touched on the grinding room facility.
No, yeah, that's another beast in itself. That was actually the first place I went to work in the finish shop. I forget who was running that when COVID all took place, but that was ultimately what brought me from the rough mill into the finish shop. I ran the grinding room for a couple months, and back then we were grinding everything manually on the hand grinders. And I got talking to Terry, and we started looking at CNC grinders, and I mean, what a change that's been. That has absolutely made things 10 times easier for Roger Ewing, who's now running the grinding room, and what an unbelievable job he does.
So a couple things that, as you were speaking, came to mind. Number one, you worked in the grinding room. You know the importance of that's a strong link in where quality starts.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, head comes out of the grinding room wrong, knives come out wrong, you don't stand a chance on the molder. So, and that's something that CNC's allowed us to do. Our guys up and drawing will draw it, they'll send a CAD drawing down to the CNC, we upload it to the CNC. From there, you probably got about 20 minutes worth of setup of setting the head up where it's supposed to be. Press go, walk away, and I would say 9 out of 10 times that head's coming off that CNC ready to rock and roll. So it kind of takes the human air out of it. Not saying that Roger does a phenomenal job for us. I can honestly say that's one part of the finish shop that I never have to worry about having an issue in.
And folks, so you understand, there are companies out there that is all they do, is produce cutting knives.
Correct.
Right? We have that on site
Yep.
here at Baird's, state of the art,
Yep.
right? To ensure the quality of the products we produce.
Yeah. So when we first started looking at that CNC, we went up. I forget where we went. I believe the gentleman's name was John, but we went and looked at his CNC run, and that was actually what he did. He would you could order custom knife profiles off of him. He would cut them out, send them to you, and then you were ready to rock and roll. Having one on site gives us a lot of ability to, you know, be quicker. We're not ordering knives and waiting. As quick as our guys can draw it up in the engineering room and get it down to us, I mean, we're probably looking at a half hour to an hour to make that knife and be ready to roll. That's
funny you mention it in that regard, because recently I had a tour, and you were involved with it,
Yep.
of a logistics class from one of the local high schools come in, and one of the teachers actually asked me, in the process of touring the grinding room, he says, "What makes you keep this in-house rather than outsourcing it?"
Yeah.
I said, number one, quality.
Yep.
And number two, turnaround.
Yeah.
I said, if there's a mishap and we trash a set of knives,
Yeah.
in a few hours, they can be reproduced.
Yeah, I mean, things happen. luckily, like I said, I got a very good group of guys, so my molder techs don't make big mistakes. I would say maybe I've seen a crash happen 2 or 3 times in the 4 years that I've been down there. But things do happen. So, you know, if we accidentally crash a head or something and destroy knives, we're not sitting in the water with nowhere to go. Simply take everything back into the grinding room. Yeah, we might be down for an hour, but Roger will jump on it and get us running as quick as he can.
So that was one of the 2 things that came to mind when you were speaking earlier. Secondly, you said that was one of your first jobs when you came into the finish shop.
Yep.
And that, you might not realize it now, but your second generation aunts, uncles, your father, and your grandfather, they wanted you kids to learn the business from front to back.
Yep.
You're the prime example of that. And so now there's when something happens in another department, you understand it because you've been there.
Yep.
You've walked in those boots.
Yeah, and there was, to your point, there was a lot of days, you know, working in the rough mill or working in the grinding room where you're standing there, and days I'd sit there and wonder, man, what the heck am I doing in here? Or what am I doing out here feeding the finger joiner for 5 days straight? But you know what, at the end of the day, it really opened my eyes what it takes to run a company like this, you know, all the things that and like you said, now when I have a sales guy come to me, or maybe even a customer that's upset over something being late or something taking a little longer, or, you know, why is your lead time 2 weeks? Why is your lead time 4 weeks? I can sit down and have an honest conversation with them and explain to them, well, you know, it's got to go through the rough mill. We got to make knives for it. We got to get it scheduled on a molder. So yeah, going through the whole business, I think is honestly, I think it's the best thing you can do, especially if you're in my shoes or, you know, one of my cousins or something like that. I think that should be a must.
Oh, definitely. And you alluded to it in conversation into one of our next talking points, the grinding room and the CNC grinding machine. I know in the past few months, you and a few other of the family went down to Atlanta for the International Woodworking Fair, IWF,
Yep.
that displays every piece of equipment you can imagine as far as woodworking goes, from the smallest widget to some of the newest molders and planers and the whole gamut. Even Terry's optimizing line, the wood eye. And so take us through some of the technologies that are implemented in your process of production.
Yeah, so that was honestly a very cool trip for myself. And I actually, Zach, my older brother, got to come along on that too. And, you know, it's kind of cool to walk through there and just daydream about what we could do in the future. You know, maybe this piece will work, you know, maybe not now, but maybe 10 years from now. I would say as far as technology goes in my building, I would say, I mean, the CNC's got to take the cake, the CNC grinder. I mean, that has totally changed how quickly we can turn around custom knives. As far as for the company, I would say Terry's building is probably the most impressive thing that we have going on as far as technology goes, just with that whole optimizing line. And how quickly he can push lumber through that line.
Don't short sell yourself in your shop, because up front there you have that Onsrud CNC.
Yeah.
You know, and going from making door components on an open head Schaefer to vacuuming them down on the bed of the CNC and running the program.
Yeah, no, that's definitely fascinating. And, you know, even like that newer Leader Mac we just bought, it's a 12-inch 6-head molder. We're mainly running S4S on it, but we do run a couple profiles on it. But the ability to change that machine over, that has the computer on it and everything, where you're just punching in your values and pressing go and it's moving. And of course it makes errors and you got to check it and make sure everything's all right. But I mean, I can do an S4S changeover in a matter of a minute. So
Yeah, but and that goes back to the grinding room. You have your cutting head, and you have your knives set in the head on a setup stand, and it's
Yeah.
indexed and ready to go.
Yeah.
Right on that machine.
Exactly. So we're doing when we cut a custom profile on that CNC, we're starting every profile 10 millimeters in from the edge of the knife. So theoretically, what that allows you to do is you take your head out there. If you know that your profile starts 10 millimeters in from the edge of your knife, you should be able to slap that head on, drop it down, and start rolling. Once again, you got to make adjustments. We run a setup piece, or maybe 2 or 3 setup pieces, depending on how complex the profile is. But yeah, I mean, that's changed the game too. And as we upgrade our molders and get newer molders, I'm sure that'll even become more efficient. But really, it comes down to the guys I got doing it. I mean, they're unbelievable. So
Yeah, and it's some of it is job site learned, but here at Baird's, we invest in the guys
Yep.
and send them down to Carolina,
yep,
down to Molder Tech School,
yep,
and they go through a process down there,
yep,
and so they bring back with them an education and a know-how
yep.
to take advantage of from the setup stand to the molder, index it in.
Yeah.
Let's make sawdust.
Yeah, exactly. So me and Brandon Druhart got the opportunity to go down to North Carolina and do I think it was a week-long molder setup school. And both of us kind of had, I mean, Brandon more so than myself because he's been doing it a little longer than me, but we pretty much knew the basics of setting a molder up. Brandon, I mean, like I said, I have the utmost respect for him. He can do some things on a molder that I never thought were possible. But that was an eye-opener for me, just the small things that they taught us as far as how you can make your setups quicker. The whole 10 millimeter thing, starting your knives, I'm sure that's industry standard, but I was 21 years old when I went down there. I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. So
Right. And talking about your visit, and this leads me into another question that I want to ask you. Visiting Atlanta in the IWF show, and that's like a kid walking into a candy store if you're in the woodworking industry.
Yeah.
And so I've attended it a couple different times. It's ginormous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
But for you and Zach and Terry to walking around, I formed this visual in my head. The three of you walking down an aisleway, and one looking one way and one looking the other, and one looking ahead at different equipment, and you see this wish list.
Yeah.
And that's important because that sets our direction as a company of, okay, here's our goal. We want that piece of equipment by this date.
Yep.
i.e. Terry's new wood eye.
Yep.
And that's important. And in stating that, how do you see this company moving forward?
I think the future is very bright for us. When we went down to Atlanta, the one piece of equipment that we were looking for mainly was a piece of equipment to replace our Greenlee double end trim and our Gabbiani, which we're dadoing all of our jams on. The goal was to buy one machine that can do both those jobs, remove those two pieces of equipment, open up some shop floor space.
Streamlining the process.
Yes, definitely. And then, the goal down the road for my building is we're going to move some things around and just try to become more efficient. Right now, we're running S4S. We're catching it off the back of the machine, stacking it into a lift that's going out to a warehouse, and then we got to bring it back in to have it sanded. The goal here in the future with opening up this shop space is we're actually going to put a batching system behind the molder that we're running the S4S on. It'll batch at the back of the molder, slide over, and go straight through a sander, and we'll be catching it off the back of the sander, so we're eliminating a process. And the sander right now is kind of a bottleneck for us. So that's one way we're going to become very efficient in that
Oh
aspect.
yeah, and that's I know you and Terry and your brother Zach and his background before he came back home. He likes digging into that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, Zach and Terry both. They love that kind of thing, and you know, I actually just enjoy sitting there listening to them talk about it and hearing what their plans are for the future down there. And I'm more the type of guy, tell me what you want done, and I'll do my best to go make it happen.
That's very true, and you know, I'm sitting here thinking and listening, and that just didn't start happening. Attending IWF, that was like your grandfather's highlight of the summer. That was like his summer trip every year. He didn't miss it.
No,
he didn't miss it, and like yourself, you have the customer service background, and like your grandfather, you have your hand on the pulse of a couple different things. Today, what's happening today, and what's happening in the future.
Yeah.
And what do I have to do to make that happen in the future?
Yep,
you
exactly.
know, and your core group, everybody involved, but specifically you and Zach and Terry, and there's importance to that, and there's merit to that, and if we continue to produce the quality hardwood products that we have been known for, and we come up with it in production in a more efficient, timely manner, and still producing that quality hardwood flooring, interior moldings, interior doors, a couple things happen. We supply our customers with the same quality product. Because we're doing it more efficiently, we can keep our costs down and pass on that product at a value point to our customers, and it just makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, we work hard for the company, but in the end, we work hard for our product and our customer.
Exactly. I've told a million people this, and I'll continue to say it. After working in the finish shop and, you know, seeing the product that's coming off the back of the molder, you know, the doors that are being built in the door shop, or, you know, even Jason Hoops building the custom butcher blocks and the arch tops. I mean, that guy's got a full plate as well. I really do feel comfortable putting our product up against anybody in the world.
You know, and in traveling with you for a couple of years, I mean, we went from Tampa to Charlotte, up into New England, out to Kansas City, and we were all across the United States for those woodworking shows. And you've heard me say it, and we witnessed it in seeing other companies, that it's easy to say that I will put our hardwood products up against anybody in the United States.
Oh yeah, easily. And you know, I was listening to that the little sit down you had with Terry there the other day, but you guys were more talking about the live sawn white oak flooring that we've been doing a lot of. But something that he said that kind of stuck with me, and it's so true, is we don't run fast and loose.
Right.
We do put a lot of material out the gate, and I think anybody that works with us or, you know, buys off of us knows what we're capable of as far as the volume of material we can get out of here. But at the same point, you know, we're not going to force a bunch of material out of here in a hurry and it not be up to our standard just to get the order or just to get it out the gate, so we don't lose said order. You know, our tolerance, I would say, is 2 to 3 thousandths on any given product. Like you said, Steve, I feel comfortable putting our product up against anybody in the country. And the other thing too, I always stress to people is, you know, we've been family owned and operated for 62 years now.
62 years.
If something does happen to sneak out the gate that's not up to our standard or not up to your standard, we're not going anywhere. We've been in the same spot for 62 years. Call us, come in, you know, I don't care if you're in California. If you get something you're not happy with, we're gonna find a way to make it right for you.
Yes, and that's so true. In that, I've over the course of my time here, I've used that same statement and introducing our company to new customers, and how the customer, how do you know that you're going to take care of me, and if there's a problem, how are you going to take care of me? And I tell people, we've been at 7060 Quarry Road, Canfield, Ohio.
Yep.
Whatever the years were at that point of the conversation, now 62 years. We're not picking the place up and moving. We're going to be here tomorrow. And we've got 3 generations to stand on in making that statement now.
Yeah.
And that's important for customers to have the knowledge and the security of knowing that they're dealing with a family-owned company that's not going anywhere.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think we're here to. I think we're going to be around a long time. I mean, I would like to say that I have a vision of, my kids and my cousins' kids and even their kids taking over this company some year, and what a dream come true that would be. But honestly, that's one of the coolest things when you get talking to people in the area that have used our product or have bought our product. And the first question you always ask is, how did it look? Are you happy with the product? And I get very few complaints, but the cool thing is when somebody does say they had a problem, the first thing they always say is, I didn't even have to ask what you guys were going to do to fix it. It was, here's what we're going to do to make things right. And that's, in my opinion, how we've always ran the company. It doesn't matter what the issue is, we're going to make sure that we make it right for you guys. And at the end of the day, you're going to be happy with the product inside your home.
And one of the beauties, and Terry has said it about 4 or 5 years ago. He made the statement when we were doing a joint interview, and somebody asked him, well, what kind of products do you make? And rather than going through the roster of moldings, flooring, interior doors, stair components, Terry said, well, pretty much if it's going inside your home and it's made out of wood, we can manufacture it.
Yeah.
And that's a true statement in that the shop is very diverse.
Yeah.
It's very diverse. Big commercial orders.
Yep.
Or the folks coming in that need a custom mantle built. Or I need 2 12-foot sticks of this custom Victorian molding because I'm doing a restoration project. And we have it from the engineering, the creation, to the grinding room, to the molder setup, the tech guys, or to the CNC. And we have a lot of abilities, and we do some pretty custom stuff.
Oh yeah.
That don't involve wood. I know you're just finishing up another order for one of our customers. What's the material, the white material that?
AZAC?
No, the high density stuff for
Teflon.
Yeah, the Teflon material.
Yeah.
And it's not wood.
No. Yeah. So that's a pretty cool thing we're doing. Eric Heiner's got a client, and I can't remember the name of them, but they're using it in gold mines. But yeah, it comes in 4x4 sheets. It's Teflon, and it can range anywhere from 3/4 of an inch thick all the way up to we've ripped 2-inch sheets of it. But we'll rip it into strips, run it through the molder, and then we cut it into 11 and 7/8 long blocks. And yeah, it's funny. The guys will walk through the shop when we're doing it, and I thought we were a wood company.
And it's neat in that you rip it, you run it through the molder, you give it a very slight profile.
Yep.
And then it's cut to the length specified by the company. And like you mentioned, it's used as wear blocks or guides in the mining industry.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I thought we ran casing and base.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. And we see specialty projects like that.
Yeah, and to your point, if we think we can do it, if we think we have the ability to do it, we're going to make it happen, whether it be wood or Teflon for that point.
But in 62 years of experience, and if we take Billy Moss and we take Brandon, we take your father, and we take Eric Heiner from the sales standpoint, we get Terry's input, we get Timmy's input. If they haven't learned anything else from their forefathers, they learn that there's a time when you say no.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And we'll be the first one to recognize that, and we'll say, man, we'd love to, but we can't.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we don't belong in that arena.
No, and exactly. And we're not going to agree to something that, you know, to my point about taking an order that we're going to have to rush through and send it out the gate and not be 100% sure of the quality of it. Same thing goes for that. We're not going to take an order that we're not sure we can fulfill to the expectations that we have. But we'll also really push our boundaries and see what we can do to make it work for you.
Oh, we've learned how to do new stuff every day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and when you quit learning, we're not going to be in business very long.
No.
So we look at that and we keep an open mind, and you've been involved, I've been involved in sit-down conversations in-house here and saying, man, do you think we can pull this off? Do you think we can do it?
Yeah, and it's funny, me and Zach have a thing. I always know he'll be coming down through the shop with a piece of paper and a grin on his face. And I know he's got some crazy idea, or some customer wants some crazy profile, and, oh, come on, we can do it. And 9 times out of 10, we figure it out and we get it done. But yeah.
You know, and that's what I say as far as our capabilities. We don't care whether it's a custom interior door and a panel configuration or custom moldings. I mean, you visit our website, bairdbrothers.com. You go to our custom moldings on the left-hand menu bar. There's 2,800, 3,000 different profiles that we've done over the years, plus our stock profiles. And we say, you know, over a cup of coffee, sitting at a coffee shop, scribble it down on a napkin, give me a little drawing, and let's start it through engineering.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. That's how broad the capabilities are.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about us. You know, you said we have 23 or whatever, 100 profiles. We're not stuck to just those profiles. We're not stuck to, you know, here's our stock profiles. If you don't see something you like, sorry. You know, like you said, bring me a sample, bring me a drawing, bring me anything you got, bring me a picture off of Pinterest, bring me something out of a magazine. Our guys up in engineering do an unbelievable job. We'll draw it up for you, and if we think we can make it, we'll make it happen.
You know, I go back to a set of doors we did a few years ago for a local restaurant down in Columbiana. If I'm not mistaken, they were 10 foot tall and 5 foot wide, 6 foot wide, something like that.
Big enough to where a normal 6'8" door fit in the bottom corner of it.
Guys didn't move them around in the shop. We had to get a tow motor to move them around.
No, those were big.
And actually, the owner of the restaurant, he came to us with the idea. He says, "Can you guys make these?" And we pulled. Who do we pull in? We pulled JR in, right? From our door department, and had conversation and said, "Okay, we can do it. This is what it's going to cost," and we got the green light on it, and they turned out phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's another cool thing about us. You know, like you said, they come to us with that big door order, and we're sitting there looking at it. You know, that's what I always stress to the sales guys. Come to the guys that, you know, are doing it. Come to the guys that know. Get with Terry. Get with JR. Get with Jason Hoops. Get with myself. Get with Zach. You know, we're gonna be honest with you. We're gonna tell you if we can do it or not. And like I said, 9 times out of 10 we can do it. I mean, I don't think we turn down very many projects. So.
Yeah. So you're not tied by a ball and chain to the shop all the time.
No.
You get to venture out with me, and like I said, we've had a couple great runs, and in our conversation, it's coming to my mind that you've experienced it, I've experienced it. We go to, whether it be a regional home and garden show, or whether it be IWF in Atlanta, the machinery show, or we've experienced it a few times, the International Builder Show in Las Vegas or Orlando. We go with a goal in mind of meeting some new customers. But also, going back to your grandfather, keeping your hand on the pulse of what's going on in the industry, and we walk around the shows and we see what other people are doing,
Yeah.
what product offerings are out there.
Definitely.
Whether it be wood related or not, because it sets a tone for what we're going to be seeing in the next year or two.
Yep.
Design trends, just like our character grade white oak product line that we've introduced recently and is really getting traction, and just what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
The whole construction industry.
Yeah, and that was, another point Terry made on your guys' little conversation was we aren't the first people to do live sawn white oak. I think we do an excellent job at making it, but we're not the first and only people to do it. But to your point, Terry noticed it getting hot, and now we're making it, and we're having a lot of success with it. So yeah, you got to keep your finger on what's going on, and figure out what your competitors are doing and try to stay one step ahead of them.
The shows are a lot of them are long hours, hard work.
Yeah.
But it's so. Not only in meeting customers is it educational for us, but seeing what the rest of the industry is doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the coolest experiences I've ever had at a show, and I can't even begin to think how many of them I've had the opportunity to go to with you. But when we were in Orlando here this year, earlier in the year, and that couple walked up and their face just lit up, and we approached them and we're like, is everything okay? And they're like, oh my God, we just placed this huge order with you guys online yesterday and had never heard of you. And then we were around the corner and boom, you guys are in Orlando, Florida at the IBS show.
Yeah.
And that's so cool to hear and to see, and to think that people all across the country are using us and using our website and stuff like that. That's very fascinating to me.
Okay, you shared a story, so I'm going to share one of my favorite stories. We were at the Pittsburgh Convention Center, and for the Home and Garden Show down there, typically that falls in March, and so we're down there, and you were working the booth with me that day, and I was engaged in conversation with a gentleman that walked into the booth, and we were having a good conversation, and he expressed his experiences with us over the years, and I said, oh yeah, I said, as a matter of fact, I'm joined by a third generation Baird today, and you come walking around the corner, and I said, Benny, come here. I said, let me introduce you to this gentleman. And I remember him putting his finger on your chest and saying, young man, you have come into something very special. Don't screw it up.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I think I'll remember that till the day I die. But I got to give a lot of credit to, the first generation, what those guys went through, and what, whether it be starting the company, like you've touched on many of times. Some of them were in the service, some were going to school. They didn't have much when they started, but they made it work. And then, look what the second generation has done. They have absolutely turned this thing on and turned it into something very special. And I'm very fortunate for the opportunity I have. I think that the second generation is doing an unbelievable job of listening to the third generation, hearing our ideas, but most importantly, teaching us the business and kind of taking us under their wing. If I have a question, I know I can go to Terry, Tim, my father, Matt, Lori. I can go to anybody in the second generation, and they're never gonna. They might shoo me away in the moment if they're busy or if something's going on, but they're gonna teach me anything I want to know. If I'm willing to learn, if I want to learn something, they're willing to teach me. So I give a lot of credit to those guys. They've done an unbelievable job, and I really look forward to the future. I think that they're gonna hand this thing off to us here in the next however many years, however many decades, and we're gonna crank this thing up and be around for a long time.
And they're not afraid to chap you either.
No, and you know what? We all need it sometimes. Family business can be difficult, but it can also be a lot of fun. I enjoy working with family. I get to sit next to my brother every day. We share an office, and it's really enjoyable having a group of family members that all have the same goal in mind. Like you said, sometimes some of us get out of line, and we gotta, this is what we're good at. This is what we're gonna do. And that's good. We all need that. So no, like I said, I have the utmost respect for what the second generation has done and is still currently doing. And man, do those guys really work their butt off to have what we have.
Right, very much so, very much so. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it from Mr. Benny Baird, third generation Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods here in Canfield, Ohio. We got a chance with a mentality like that, kid. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're going to make it work. So
all right, buddy. Hey, thanks for stopping back.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, American Hardwood Advisor, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Follow us on the socials. More coming at you.
For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at bairdbrothers.com. Until next time,